Describe a good law in your country. You should say what the law is, how you first learned about the law, who benefits from this law, and explain why you think this is a good law. I'm going to tell you about Singapore's littering laws, which I firmly believe are a great idea. As you know, Singapore is one of the cleanest countries in the world, which I feel extremely proud of, considering many other countries in Asia have enormous pollution issues. Unfortunately, I think people need strict laws enforced to have the incentive not to do it. Either way, I'm glad it benefits our planet and those who reside on it. In Singapore, a first-time offender who is caught littering is subject to a max fine of $2,000, a second-time offender $4,000, and a third-time $10,000. However, this is only if a police sees you. I wonder how many people can sneak past this. However, there's a strong police presence in Singapore, so I hope this isn't the case. I would say the entire country benefits from this. By having a cleaner environment, we all have uncountable health benefits. For example, we could have healthier lungs, skin, animals have improved habitats, etc. Furthermore, we attract more tourists, as many people are drawn to clean places. With this said, I know that some people financially profit from this. Sadly, humans have a tendency to choose to see only what they want. None of us want to believe the gravity of just how much we are harming the planet and cannot always directly see it in front of us. We just live for today. With this said, people usually don't take initiative to protect the environment unless there are laws. So, I think this law is critical to give people incentive not to litter. As the fine is drastically high, it will scare people into making sure their trash gets into the bins. Although it must go hand in hand with education, I think it's impossible to keep a clean country without strict laws. I wish more countries enforced laws like these. Part 3. Is there any situation people disobey the law? To be honest, I've never actually seen anyone litter. I'm sure it must still exist to some low extent, but I genuinely think people are afraid to do so because of the fines and police presence. However, I know that no country is perfect and that there are always people who will disobey the law. On another note, I think that perhaps people who come to Singapore are more likely to throw their trash on the ground if it isn't something enforced in their home country. Do people like being a policeman in your country? I would say so. Actually, my father is a police officer and he seems to enjoy it quite a bit, although it is a tough job. Since Singapore has a reputation to maintain, the police force strives their utmost to give their all to make sure that Singapore remains among the safest countries. With this said, some police officers feel quite a lot of pressure, which makes it a challenging yet rewarding job. What qualities should a police officer have? Firstly, I believe that a police officer must have a high sense of integrity. As corruption is a problem in many countries which prevents progress in a place, it's important that the police officer has a sense of integrity along with morality, honesty, and a genuine concern to make the country safer. Furthermore, they must be hardworking and not too relaxed, as there are always people trying to slip through the cracks of the law. All in all, they must be a strict, no-tolerance sort of individual to be efficient. Why do some people want to become a lawyer? To be honest, I think some people choose it for the money, as it is a high-paid job in many countries. Secondly, some people feel quite passionate about the law and want to dedicate their life to it. Thirdly, there are many different branches of the law, such as international, geriatric, criminal, etc. So there are many different opportunities within this career path. As with other jobs, people know in their heart which career is for them.
Well, speaking of good law, the first one that comes to my mind is forbidden drug taking and smuggling, which was launched a lot of years. I think you have already know drugs have a lot of side effects, like it can infect our brain and really bad for our health. Actually, my classmates told me a real once about her father who ate drugs and was arrested into jail about 5 years. Drugs is a bad thing which resulted in little and control violent behaviors. Personally speaking, all the citizens want to live in the safety society. Therefore, this law is very perfect. Additionally, comparing with America and some countries in Europe, most of these countries allow people to eat some drugs. So I think government in China did a good job on issuing this law. This is a good law, I think.
When it comes to a good law in my country, I'd like to talk about the ban on drink and drive. I think this law was carried out many years ago, but this law was never being fully executed. And since last year, I heard it on TV that the police departments are going to reinforce this law. So, and any people who drink and drive will be seriously punished. I think the government did this because in previous years, too many accidents have already happened and caused a lot of damage and claiming many lives as well. I think this is a very good law for the following reasons. First of all, it protects life, both the driver's lives and the pedestrians' lives, because when people are drunk, they will respond very slowly and they cannot see clearly. Sometimes they might even see double. So it's very dangerous. And besides, I think this law reduces poverty loss. You know, nowadays cars are very expensive. Some cars can cost up to 1 million RMB, and it will be shame if such cars are just destroyed because people drink and drive. And thirdly, I think this law gives a good excuse for people to refuse drinking. You know, my dad is a businessman, so he often attends various formal dinners, and on these occasions, people would persuade him to drink, but he couldn't refuse. Now that this law is in place, he could easily refuse them by saying that he doesn't want to be a criminal. So, in the future, I do believe that people in China will obey this law and drink and drive will not exist in our society. When it comes to a good law, I'd like to talk about the ban on smoking in public places, which is a very important one. The law says that people are not allowed to smoke in public places, including airports, train stations, and museums. If someone violates this law, he will be prosecuted and even sentenced. This law was carried out a couple of years ago by the government because smoking caused too many problems in the past. There are several aspects I'd like to talk about this law. First of all, this law is good for the health of the general public. When people smoke, they inhale a lot of toxic chemicals, which can cause lung cancer. And those who are around them, such as women and children, will suffer from secondhand smoking, which is worse than firsthand smoke. Secondly, this law benefits public safety. Sometimes people throw around their cigarette butts which are still burning. This is a very serious potential threat to people's properties and even lives. Lastly, it benefits the environment. Some people throw away the ashes and butts regardless of the environment. They make the city look dirty and messy, and this law could enhance the image of the city. In the future, I hope this law can be executed better.
Describe a good law in your country. What kind of people can become police officers?
There are many qualities that one should have if he wants to be a policeman. First of all, he should be brave. Police officers often need to conquer the villains at the crime scenes. If they're timid, they will not be able to do that. Also, they must be patient. Sometimes there are not many clues in a case. In that case, they need to look into the details to see what new leads they can have.
Do you think both men and women can be police officers?
Yes, I think men and women can cooperate. Male officers are usually physically stronger, while female officers are more patient. In order to solve a crime and find the criminal, both are needed. We should not have any prejudice to females in this occupation.
Are officers paid too much?
Not at all. First of all, this is a dangerous job. They could lose their lives when they pursue a criminal. Also, they need to invest a lot of time and energy into their work. We must pay a high salary so that capable young people are willing to take this job so that our society can always be secure.
Is kindness the most important quality of a police officer?
No, a police officer should not be kind to lawbreakers. I think the most important quality of a policeman or policewoman is justice. He or she cannot judge things by appearance. He or she must judge things by hard evidence.
Do all Chinese people obey the law?
No, every country has lawbreakers, and China is not an exception. We often see news on TV that many law offenders are arrested and sentenced to jail. As long as the majority of the public obey the law, the society is stable.
A law that is well known and favored by most Chinese people is the law of advertising. It is a law that deals with illegal advertising contents that exaggerate the effects of products and sayings that are untrue. It has essential meaning in our country because it provides protection for consumers. As I am a senior account manager working in the advertising company, I have seen many examples. In the past, some ad on TV always presents as the products with the best sales, the optimal ingredients, and so on, while in fact those praises were false or exaggerated, as it has caused serious loss for consumers. I believe this law was urgently needed. Now, as the law is well developed, I think there are two groups of people would be influenced. The first step is consumers. They could benefit from this law. They are now being empowered and they have the right to tell what advertising
is good or not. Whereas in the past, before the announcement of this law, many consumers were deceived to purchase fake products, suffered great loss both mentally and physically. This law also makes brand owners to reconsider the role of advertising in their marketing strategy and begin taking it seriously. So, based on the above, um, I think this law is a good law because it has brought positive impact in our country.
Describe a good law in your country. Like in most countries in China, there is a traffic law. The newly updated version brought more significant benefits to the society. The new traffic law was adopted last year, I think, which gives a harsher punishment to people who does drunken driving. Their license will be revoked immediately, and they could even face criminal charges. I knew about this law was because I have been preparing for the driving license test. I think anyone living in China can be affected by this law, not only the drivers but also the pedestrians on the roads. The biggest reason that I would consider this law to be a beneficial one is that it sends out a clear message that DUI is intolerable in China. I remember in the past, before the law wasn't so complete, people took chances after they're drunk. It caused numerous amount of traffic accidents every year. I think this behavior I think this behavior was quite irresponsible both to themselves and to the other people. The other positive change is that the police force that has been sent on catching DUIs were increased significantly. Every night, there are police checking on main roads, intercept people for alcohol tests. I guess this action intimidates drunk driver as well.
I'm going to talk about the first law that comes into my mind. It is stipulated in the Chinese constitution that citizens are prohibited from carrying guns or weapons of the same sort. Or weapons of the same sort. I think it was put into the law by our founding fathers since the establishment of our country, of our nation, the People's Republic of China. I guess I have always known it. However, I wasn't aware of it only until I read news about school shooting incidents. It is about a random person entering a campus out of the blue. He shot and wounded a dozen of innocent students. After reading the news, I was suddenly struck by the fact that it is illegal to own a gun or even bullets in China. How about that? This law affects all Chinese and even foreign visitors who are currently within Chinese borders. It guarantees a safe environment of all of us. Before the before the People's Republic of China was founded, our country was crawling with stocks and with stocks and mobs who used the violence in our land. They used weapons such as rifles. After the implement, After the implementation of the law, crime rates had decreased year by year. It was a visionary decision. Thanks to this law, we are able to wander on the dark net street with fears only of ghosts, and not for having our lives taken by money-seeking thugs. And thanks to this law, if now now if I run into a mugger, I have a fighting chance. After all, a sheep is not a gun. I could outrun the sheep, but never could I outrun a flying bullet.
Well, I like to talk about the law about family planning because when I listened to an English session, my teacher who studied in UCL in 2013 and majored politics, her peers who were supposed to focus on the course after they learned Chinese family planning, but were interested in her because they wanted to ask her if someone had a baby, would she be killed when she had another. Mm, it it sounded like an interesting joke, but it is really thought provoking event. Maybe people from different countries do not really know about this law. Actually, China has changed this law in 2015, which has accepted one family to birth more than one child. I think it is pretty good for residents and our country, which admits more new lives come to the world, provided a family happiness and pushes the education and other industry developed. And besides, for future, after 20 years, there will be more youngsters who can contribute to our country's development. And during 1990s, China are developing well with high speed after the reform and opening. The life standard improved as well, so people wanted to have more children, which means that happiness and prosperous over family. However, for the society, it is dangerous and a kind of strange to have more new babies, like baby booming after World War II in Europe and America. So our country took this law to control birth in 21. It would be funny if someone had at least two children. Two children. Uh, it not. It didn't kill people. During this reason. And what impressed me a lot was that when I was 7 years old in 29, my mother experienced unwanted pregnancy and abortion because that time my family could not afford the fanning fees to feed this baby, which made my mother sighed and cried to lose him. It was really a sadness that time. I think for one thing, it's a historical problem before for watching the social and economic structure. Our country had to launch its law, but now we value people right and respect new laws. That's pretty much about the good law, I think.
Well, in terms terms of this topic, I'd like to talk about a good law in my country that is no smoking in public places. I think it's a really good law. It's a common sense that in many countries in the world that smoking is really bad for the public's health, right? So it is banned almost everywhere. But here in China, it's a pity, and it's really shameful that the law took effect in 2000. It's kind of late, but it's better late than never, right? So um, there's no doubt that the smoking is really a bad thing for people's health. But here in China, you can see heavy smokers, twin smokers. They're smoking everywhere, in restaurants, in the bathroom, in offices, and even in classrooms. Some teachers are smoking in the classroom. Can you believe it or not? Can you believe it? That's just ridiculous, right? So that's why I think this law is really necessary, and it's a really good law. I think it should be really effective. Um, Fortunately, we have this law to ban public smoking, to ban smoking in public places. And that's a really good news for secondhand smokers, especially for little babies. If you think about the picture that adults smoking in front of a baby, that's so sad. That's very rude. That's not very civilized. However, the sad part of the law is that it's not very strictly enforced. That's why you can still see smokers. They're smoking whenever and everywhere, wherever they like. And that's so sad. I believe that we have to say that the key point is not about the law. It's about that we enforce the law, we respect the law, that we believe in rule by law, and that's the most important. So no smoking in public place is the good law I'd like to talk about right here. Well, in terms of this topic, I'd like to talk about a very good, very, very good law in China. It's called no smoking in public places. You know, this law took effect in 2000, like 19 years ago. It's been in effect for about 20 years. Okay, I think it's a very good law. According to the law, smoking in public places like restaurants, cinema, museums, hospitals, it basically is banned. Yeah, yeah. I think it's kind of late compared to Western countries, but better late than never, right? If you break the law, if you smoke in public places, like a teacher smoking in classroom, like a doctor smoking in hospital, okay, you'll be fined. You'll be fined 200 yuan. Yeah, that's good, but I don't think it's good enough. I think the fine should be like even more serious, like more damaging. For example, 2,000 yuan. Okay, we have to lift the bar a little bit higher. We all know that smoking is really bad for your health. It can cause all kinds of diseases like lung cancer, throat cancer, heart attack, high blood pressure, and stuff like that. But there's still a whole bunch of a lot of people smoking in China. You can see young people and old people, men, women, gay, straight, smokers all everywhere. That's horrible. To make it worse, um, secondhand smoking is really, really, really serious situation here in China. It's secondhand smoking is really harmful for those people for the non-smokers. Especially for babies. If you're sitting in a restaurant, you can see a lot of smokers. They're smoking. They're smoking all the time, and right next to their table, probably there's a family. And the babies right there, children are there. That's just horrible. Um, by introducing this law, I think the Chinese government sent a very good signal. Okay, so that cigarettes consuming is bad. All right. Unfortunately, of course, you can see this law is not very effective right now. It is not strictly observed at all. You still can see heavy smokers, chain smokers are smoking like everywhere, whenever and wherever they want. It's horrible. I think we need to take it seriously. We need to punish them. We need to punish them seriously, right? Um, I think the law should be respected. We need to believe in rule by law, you know. So, to sum up, my point is that no smoking in public is a really good law, but we need to respect the law, simply because smoking is a really terrible thing, because I myself don't smoke. I will not smoke in the future, no matter what. Um,
I want to describe a law that was amended in 2011 and came into effect immediately. I remember that was 8 years ago when I heard it on the air. It says, drunk driving is a criminal behavior. If people are found driving after drink, they would get a serious penalty, which included several months detention, revoking of their driving license, and a fine for thousands RMB. The law is much harsher compared with the previous law on drink driving. A recent government report said over 3,000 people were killed and 9,000 were injured during the last 5 years. Drink driving is not only harmful to yourself, it also puts others in danger. So in my opinion, this law could be a great deterrent. After the law came into effect, the number of drunk driving cases fell dramatically. What's more, I often see traffic police checking the drunk driving at the crossings as a casual inspection, normally from 8 in the morning to 11 in the evening. China's roads and streets are getting busier. The new drunk driving law is designed to make them a little less dangerous, which means to some extent it guarantees the safety of the traffic system.
A good law I'm going to talk about is a law. It's about smoking. In China, smoking in public places is banned. And this law has been considered as one of the most important laws in citizens' eyes, especially in those who hate secondhand smoke. I got to know about this law when I was very, very young because there were signs to remind people not to smoke everywhere, just everywhere. Right now in China, Shanghai and Beijing, the mega cities, are implementing a tough smoking ban, and non-smoking posters were put on the most eye-catching places in every corner of the city. And of course, there is a smoking ban in some other cities in China, but it is not that strict than it is less strict than in these two cities. Why is it a good law? Well, I think it is a good law mostly because we don't have to suffer from the secondhand smoke anymore. Tobacco smoke contains more than 70,000 chemicals. I just knew it from my reports, and more than 70 of them are known to cause lung cancers. And so it is the number one risk factor for lung cancer. This law, to some extent, not only does good to smokers because they don't smoke or they can smoke wherever they want to, and in some cases, they may not smoke that often, but also protects those lung smokers from being hurt by the secondhand smoke. Imagine you don't smoke, but you're diagnosed with lung cancer because of the fact that smokers smoke smoke in the public places randomly. So you just suffer from lung cancer, and how would you feel about it? Huh? So that's why I think this is a really good law.
Describe a good law in your country. Well, much about this topic. What I want to talk about is the ban of drink driving. I think this law has been carried out many years ago, but in fact, it was never being fully executed. Last year, I heard from the TV that the police department is going to uh, enforce this law, and anyone who was drink driving will be seriously punished. I think the government decided to do this because in the past few years, too many accidents really happened. And I think there are several reasons for this. First of all, it protects people's lives, both drivers and the passengers' lives. If people drunk, they respond slowly and couldn't see something clearly, even double. In this condition, it was so dangerous to drive. Secondly, it reduces people's property loss. You know, the car is very expensive. It will be a shame that such a car is destroyed by accident because of drink driving. Thirdly, uh, it's a really good excuse to reduce drinking by saying I don't want to be a criminal. You know, too many people uh, persuade each other to drink in some formal dinner, and they couldn't refuse that. Now the law is working, and they can refuse drinking easily. I do believe that Chinese people will obey this law, and the accidents wouldn't happen anymore.
Well, although I don't know much about law, I love to talk about an animal law against overreproduction of pets, like dogs and cats. I came across some news introducing the related regulation about prohibiting businesses like pet stores, shelters, and kennels from breeding pets on a massive scale. As we all know, the pet industry is a multi-million-dollar industry. People are willing to pay an absurd amount of money to obtain a pet they adore because people are looking for a lifetime companion. I've heard some of my friends who are willing to pay up to 20,000 RMB for a pure breed dog. It's actually rather common for dog owners to pay a couple thousands for an urban dog like a corgi or French bulldog. However, the thing is, when businesses breed dogs and cats on a large scale without government regulation, many of the animals end up being abandoned or euthanized. The business don't know how to take care of the animals, or they don't even care about the animals, because that would cause genetic disorders, deformity, and a lot more problems. Obviously, this has to stop, and that's why many parts of Europe and North America have adopted related laws to protect the animals. But those lovely animals in China aren't as lucky. A license for a certified breeder isn't just a piece of paper. It helps to regulate the pet industry and the pet market, guaranteeing basic animal rights. At the same time, it also helps the lawful businesses to survive and thrive. I've heard reports about positive outcomes thanks to such a law. Since there's a noticeable decline in the number of strayed animals in countries where such law is adopted. So, I sincerely hope that in the near future, animal rights could be a thing in the China market.
Well, first of all, can I say that I find this topic super difficult? Not in my wildest dreams did I ever think that I would get a topic like this on the IELTS speaking test. I thought it was just going to be a casual conversation with you. I guess I'll have to take this test again soon. I don't really know much about laws in China. I guess the only thing I can talk a little bit about is, in China, men need to be 22 years old or older to get married, and for women, the age limit is 20. I first heard about this law in middle school. I remember when I was 13 years old, we had a subject called politics, and one day we learned about this law. I still remember that right after our teacher told us about this age limit thing, I was quite shocked because at that time my neighbors were a young couple who were only 18 years old. I had talked with them before and they told me that they had just graduated from high school and they were married. So, right after hearing about this age limit thing, I was very surprised because I just didn't understand how it could work between the couple. Right after I got back home, I asked my parents about it, and they told me that they didn't have, the couple living next door didn't have a marriage certificate issued by the government. They only had a wedding ceremony, and they thought they were married, but actually it was not legal. Why I think it's a good law? Well, it's a good law because it really prevents people from getting hitched too early. I believe this is really good because if teenagers are too immature to go into marriage and start a family. They have to wait until they're 20 or 22 so they are a little bit more mature.
Describe a good law in your country. You should say what it is, how you knew it, who its affects. Why do you think it is good? I'm going to talk about the customer protection law in my country. I have known this law since my primary school, and our teacher has told us that we can always use this law to defend our rights in shopping. It feels awful, but I have to say that fake products are still common throughout China. If you want to buy an iPad online, you will find that almost all the sellers say that they are selling the real product. Well, the truth is, some iPads do come from Apple's company, but they are just not allowed by Apple in selling. So if you buy an iPad from those stores, it's just like buying a model with all the same parts as a real one, but no official service at all. Anyway, fake products are just hard to tell from the real ones, and even when you realize that you get a fake one, the store may not agree to return the money. In such conditions, it's important to use the customer protection law as a weapon. We can call the official hotline 12315 for help. People there will help to check the product, like searching its artifact codes. If the case is confirmed, they will help us argue with the store and get the money back. So basically,
That's why I think this law is good.
The law I'd like to talk about is drinking driver law. In my country, this law is quite strict. You cannot drive after drinking alcohol, even a drop. So, if you caught by the police after drinking, you you will get fined, or you will be taken away the driver's license, or possibly even go to the prison. This law gives the deterrent effect on those who intended to against the law, making them consider the consequences of those behaviors. Regarding of how I know it, I suppose that I have seen the sort of law on TV or from the social media. Undoubtedly, this law benefits to the whole society. It will be much safer. The number of the traffic accidents has decreased since the law came to the fact. So that's basically why I think that it is a good law.
Describe a good law in your country. Well, I think the good law in my country is the marriage law. The marriage law rules that the property earned by both men and women during the marriage is the joint property of both husband and wife. I understand this law because my sister's mother wanted to advise 10 years ago. At that time, in order to help my sister's mother to fight for greater benefit, I also learned a lot of knowledge related to this law from lawyers. I think the reason for this law, the reason why I think this law is very good because if the man's career makes a lot of money and very achieve, he will tend to change his wife in China. But the wife has spent a lot of time and energy in the family. So I think that if you must divorce, your wife should receive responsible compensation. Yes, this will help the humorous of the city, and I think it will have it also ban some husband and increase their divorce causes. So I think this is a good law.
Okay, let's listen to some part 2 responses on the topic of a good law in your country. Here we go. Sample 1.
Part 2. Describe a good law in your country. You should say what the law is, how you first learned about the law, who benefits from this law, and explain why you think this is a good law.
These cues might vary. This one here about who benefits from this law. Not every response that I've seen includes this cue. This one is a little bit different from the others.
This is a good law. I'm going to tell you about Singapore's littering laws, which I firmly believe are a great idea.
Okay. Very often when we talk about laws, we have a noun before the law, like here, littering laws. Later on, we're going to see some examples where people don't follow this convention and they describe laws in a bit of a strange way.
As you know, Singapore is one of the cleanest countries in the world, which I feel extremely proud of, considering many other countries in Asia have enormous pollution issues.
Okay, if we look at the grammar here, here we have the superlative, cleanest countries, and look at the grammar here. Considering many other countries have, and then here we have this noun phrase, enormous pollution issues.
I think people need strict laws enforced to have the...
Now let's go back to that sentence. Oh, also the use of the adverb, unfortunately. Use those adverbs in part 2. Well, use those adverbs everywhere, but especially in part 2.
To have enormous pollution issues. Unfortunately, I think people need strict laws enforced to have the incentive not to do it.
When you're going to talk about laws, enforce is a good phrase to use. Laws enforce, meaning laws on the book, or on the books rather. Incentive is also a good word to use.
I'm glad it benefits...
Whoa, what happened there? Let's put a comma there instead of a period. Okay.
To have the incentive not to do it. Either way, I'm glad it benefits our planet and those who reside on it.
Well, surely this is and, not in. And those who reside on it. Alright, so here we have a relative clause. Those who reside on it. Let's continue.
Reside on it. In Singapore, a first-time offender who is caught littering is...
Now here, I don't know if she says is or was. It does sound a lot like was, doesn't it?
In Singapore, a first-time offender who is caught littering...
Maybe I should give her the benefit of the doubt. I'm not 100% sure. It should be is, right? This is not something that happened in the past. But let's look at the vocabulary. Offender, caught, subject to. When you're talking about fines, people are subject to a maximum fine. Very good vocabulary.
In Singapore, a first-time offender who is caught littering is subject to a max fine of $2,000. In Singapore, a first-time offender who is caught littering is subject to a max fine of $2,000.
Let's look at some of the vocabulary here. Let's see, we have first-time offender. Very good. First time you break the law. Subject to. If you have a fine, you are subject to a certain amount. I don't know if I would recommend using the word max. Why not just say maximum? I mean, if it's minimum, are you going to say min? Say maximum.
Max fine of $2,000. A second-time offender, $4,000, and a third-time, $10,000. However, this is only if a police sees you.
A police. Ooh. Police is an uncountable noun, so it should be police officer if a police officer sees you.
Only if a police sees you. I wonder how many people can sneak past this.
This. Now, does this refer to the police officer? Why are we referring to a police officer by using the word this? Why not him or her or them?
Sneak past this. However, there's a strong police presence in Singapore.
Ooh, police present. That's a great phrase. Police presence. Very nice.
This isn't the case.
So I hope this isn't the case. I don't know what that means. What is she talking about? She's hoping people can't sneak past the police? Not clear what's going on in this sentence. Let's move on.
I would say the entire country benefits from this. By having a cleaner environment, we all have uncountable health benefits.
But remember, she was talking about littering, right?
For example, we could have healthier lungs.
What does this have to do with littering? Does littering affect air pollution?
Skin, animals have improved habitats, etc.
That's a good point.
Furthermore,
hang on a second. In the speaking, please don't say etc. Etc. is used for writing. So you could say improved habitats and so on, but not etc. Avoid that.
Drawn to clean places.
Come on now. Let's go back to that sentence. Furthermore, why is there no comma there? Alright, let's try that again.
Habitats, etc. Furthermore, we attract more tourists, as many people are drawn to clean places.
Instead of attracted to, she says drawn to. That's a nice word to use. You don't hear a lot of people using that, and you want to be using a vocabulary that not many other people use.
With this said, I know that some people financially profit from this.
From littering laws. What does the this refer to? The littering or the laws?
Sadly, humans have a tendency to choose to see only what they want. None of us want to believe the gravity of just how much we are harming the planet and...
Okay, she kind of lost me here. I know that some people financially profit from this. What does this mean? Because the previous sentence is, we attract more tourists as many places are drawn to clean places. So this refers to... I don't know. Let's see.
See only what they want. None of us want to believe the gravity of just how much we are harming the planet and cannot always directly see it in front of us. We just live for today.
Okay. I understand the last sentence, but not anything before that.
With this said, people usually don't take initiative to protect the environment unless there are laws.
Okay, so I guess she's trying to make like a conclusion here. She's talking about laws in general. She's not really talking about any good law now. Kind of going very, very slightly off topic. She's not talking about the good law anymore. Because look at this. She's just talking about people and laws in general. And here, not really addressing the topic.
This law is critical to give people incentive not to litter.
Incentive is a good word to use.
As the fine is drastically high, it will scare people into making sure their trash gets into the bins.
Okay.
Although it must go hand in hand with education, I think it's impossible to keep a clean country without strict laws. I wish more countries enforced laws like these.
Okay, when you're talking about laws, enforce is a good word to use. Strict is a good word to use when you're describing laws. And then if we just look at the discourse markers, here we have although, here we have as, well, that's not really a discourse marker, more of a linker. Here we have so, a linker. With this said, so strong cohesion. Alright, here are some questions for part 3. Let's have a listen to those.
Part 3. Is there any situation people disobey the law?
Is there any situation people disobey the law? I think we need to fix this question. Why is this in the singular? Why isn't this are there any situations? But anyway, let's add the word where to this. Although I think it would be better if we made this in the plural. Are there any situations where people disobey the law?
Is there any situation people disobey the law? To be honest, I've never actually seen anyone litter.
That's pretty amazing. Alright, but to be honest, here she's using to be honest correctly. Because most people like me would not believe this. So here she's using this correctly.
I'm sure it must still exist to some low extent.
Let's drop the low. I'm sure it still happens to some extent. Maybe exist is not the right word either. I'm sure it still occurs. I'm sure it still happens to some extent. Not low. There's no low. Exist is not the right word.
Some low extent. But I genuinely think people are afraid to do so because of the fines and police presence.
Police presence. I think we heard this before in part 2. Good phrase to use.
However, I know that no country is perfect and that there are always people who will disobey the law. On another note...
Oh, look at this. On another note. That's a great phrase for her next point, her second point, which is...
I think that perhaps people who come to Singapore are more likely to throw their trash on the ground.
But now why is she just talking about Singapore? She's talking about... This is part 3, right? Why are you talking about what you already talked about in part 2? You're not bringing up any new issues or any new ideas. Don't stick to Singapore and the littering laws. Talk about something else.
Singapore are more likely to throw their trash on the ground if it isn't something enforced in their home country.
Okay, if I were her, I'd talk about something else.
Do people like being a policeman in your country?
Interesting that this is policeman and not police officer.
I would say so. Actually, my father is a police officer.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so she's jumping into the personal way too early. Part 3 is not personal. Don't start talking about your father being a police officer. You can use this personal experience to illustrate your point after you've made it. But don't make your point by using personal examples. The examiner is going to stop you.
He seems to enjoy it quite a bit, although it is a tough job. Since Singapore has a reputation to maintain, the police force strives...
This should come before the part about her dad. Was it her dad? Yeah, her dad.
The police force strives their utmost to give their all to make sure that...
But look at the vocabulary here. Look at this. Strive, utmost. Strive their utmost. Very good.
Force strives their utmost to give their all to make sure that...
Give their all. Very dense use of very good vocabulary.
Singapore remains among the safest countries. With this said...
She's used this before, right?
Some police officers feel quite a lot of pressure, which makes it a challenging yet rewarding job.
Do people like being a police officer in your country? Okay. We have a clear answer in the beginning. This, I think, should go at the end. Should give some reasons. So it's slightly illogical, but not that illogical.
What quality should a police officer have? Firstly, I believe that a police officer must have a high sense of integrity.
Integrity is certainly a quality you can mention in this question.
As corruption is a problem in many countries which prevents progress in a place, it's important that the police officer has a sense of integrity along with morality.
Okay, here we can get some more. Morality, honesty, a concern to make the country safer. A concern for the safety. Yeah, I guess that's also... Is that a quality? I'm not sure.
Honesty, and a genuine concern to make the country safer. Furthermore, they must be hardworking and not too relaxed.
Okay, here we have furthermore and introducing more points, hardworking, not too relaxed, and she's giving reasons.
As there are always people trying to slip through the cracks.
Cracks of the law. All right. That's a good idiomatic phrase. Cracks of the law. Maybe cracks in the law.
Through the cracks of the law.
In the law.
All in all, they must be strict, no tolerance.
They must be They must be, there's no so this should be plural, individuals. So they must be strict, no tolerance sort of individual.
Individual to be efficient.
Strict, no tolerance. No tolerance. The problem here is strict is an adjective, right? No tolerance is a noun. So they must be strict individuals with no tolerance to be efficient. I would rephrase it just a little bit. Strict individuals with no tolerance.
Individual to be efficient. Why do some people want to become a lawyer? To be honest, I think some people choose it for the money, as it is a high-paid job in many countries. Secondly, some people feel quite passionate about the law and want to dedicate their life to it. Thirdly,
firstly, secondly, thirdly. There's nothing wrong with that if you don't do it too much.
There are many different branches of the law, such as international, geriatric, criminal, etc.
Like I said before, don't use etc., just say and so on.
So there are many different opportunities within this career path. As with other jobs, people know in their heart which career is for them.
I guess. Alright, let's look at some possible scores here. Okay, now I'm going to talk about scores a little bit. But keep in mind, in the IELTS test, your score is determined by how well you did in part 1, part 2, and part 3. So it's not really realistic to give a score based on only part 2 and part 3 or only part 2. So this is kind of an approximation, but it's not really that realistic. But anyway, from what I heard from this person, for Fluency and Coherence, I would say there was what we might call occasional self-correction. She didn't really repeat herself, but there was 1 or 2 instances where she did self-correct. Even though she was reading, she did develop the topic coherently, but in part 2, there was a little bit in the middle where I couldn't quite follow what she was saying, where I thought she hadn't quite developed the topic that fully. So for Fluency and Coherence, I would have to say, even though this was a written response that she read out, I can't give her more than an 8. Now, for Lexical Resource, I mean, you're going to have to give her a 9. I mean, all that idiomatic language that she was using, it's got to be a 9. Grammar as well has got to be a 9. I mean, there were so many different structures that she used, and the grammar was pretty much consistently accurate. She did make a couple of mistakes, but we can categorize those as being slips and nothing else. Now, for pronunciation, I've got to say, I wouldn't give her more than a 7 because she was reading. So even though we saw some evidence of her using positive features like intonation and stress and rhythm, it was not sustained. To get a band 8, you have to flexibly sustain the use of these features. And I just didn't see it with her because she was reading. She wasn't naturally speaking. So it can't be more than a 7 for that. All right, let's move on to sample 2. Let's have a listen to this one. Seems a bit short.
Well, speaking of a good law, the first one that comes to my mind is forbidden judge taking.
Okay, couple of things. This introduction, speaking of a good law, who was speaking of a good law? Nobody. The examiner wasn't speaking of a good law. There's no one else present when you're taking the test, so please do not use this as an introductory phrase. Nobody was talking about a good law. The first one that comes to my mind, no, it doesn't just suddenly come to your mind. You had a minute to prepare for this. So nothing is coming to your mind. And then we have this self-correction here, from talk to taking.
Taking and some reading which was
And I can't make out the word she's saying here. And something. So already I don't know the topic of her talk. I don't know which law she's talking about. Is it talking? Is it taking? I don't know what this is. It's very unclear.
which was launched a lot of years.
All this self-correction makes it really difficult to know what she's saying. Something was launched last year.
I think you have already know drugs have a lot of side effects, like it can infect our brain.
Okay, I know it's something that can affect our brain. So maybe she's talking about some kind of virus. Lots of grammatical errors here. You have already know. I don't know why there's a have there. You already know. Just have. What is the subject of this have? It has? I'm not sure what's the subject of this verb.
Drugs have a lot of side effects, like it can infect our brain and really bad for our health.
Okay, there's some missing be verbs here. Here's an adjective without a be verb. It is really bad for our health.
Actually, my classmates told me a real once about her father.
No, I'm guessing she said in ones because I can't make out the word.
Classmates told me a real once about
Could be events, could be in ones, I don't know.
her father, who ate drugs.
Took drugs. The verb for drugs is take. You take drugs, you don't eat them.
And was a
Oh, let's put a comma there. Well, that's not a comma. Let's just move this a little bit. There we go. Let's separate that. Was arrested. Okay, arrested is not a bad word to use.
and was arrested into jail about
Oh, that must be jail, right? Arrested.
was arrested into jail.
Oh, yes, you should jail, not deal. First time I listened to this, I swear I heard deal. Now, I'm hearing jail more clearly.
Into jail about 5 years.
About failures? Wait, what? About failures?
Jail about 5 years.
Failures? 5 years?
Jail about 5 years.
Okay, I'm not gonna play it again. Maybe she tried to say 5 years, but man, I'm hearing failures. Now, you are not arrested to jail. You are sentenced to jail for 5 years, I guess. Okay, so I take it back. Arrested is not a good word to use here. She's using the wrong word. You were sentenced to jail for 5 years.
5 years.
5 years, I don't know.
Drugs is a bad thing.
Drugs are plural, so drugs are bad things.
Which resulted
That shouldn't be in the past tense, right? So which resulted
in little and control violent behaviors.
The behavior is a noun, so violence must be an adjective. Violent. I don't know what control violent behaviors means. I don't understand the control.
Personally speaking, all the citizens want to live in the safety society.
Okay, so she's doing the same thing again. Society is a noun, so we need an adjective to describe society. Safe society. And if we look at this discourse marker, personally speaking, you can say personally speaking, and then you speak on behalf of all the citizens. What are you saying? How is this personal? This is the opposite of personal. This is very general.
Citizens want to live in the safety society.
Okay, so citizens want to live in a safe society.
Therefore, this law is very perfect.
something is either perfect or it's not. It can't be very perfect. Perfect is not a gradable adjective. So there's no adverb here.
Therefore, this law is very perfect. Additionally, comparing with
well, neither is correct. It's compared to
America and some countries in Europe. Most of these countries
compared to America and some European countries. What? She's not making a comparison. She goes on to say most of these countries allow people to take drugs, but where is the comparison? There's no comparison there.
And some countries in Europe. Most of these countries allow people to eat some drugs.
Take drugs.
So I think government in China,
the government in China, think, not sink, I think,
did a good job on issuing this law.
Well, laws are not issued. A better verb. So I think the government in China did a good law. Actually, I don't know how laws in China are made. I don't think they're passed, right? Because in other countries, the people in parliament need to vote on the laws. In China, I guess they just tell you, hey, this is the law. Nobody has a say in that. So maybe promulgate. The Chinese government did a good law on promulgating this law, or perhaps you could say the Chinese government, or can you perhaps say the government. I think the government in China did a good job on passing this law. But again, I don't know if laws in China are actually passed or putting this law into effect, something like that. Oh wait, there's more.
That is a good law, I think.
Okay. Let me think about the scores here. Okay, for fluency and coherence, to get a 6, you need to be able to speak at length. She spoke for 1 minute and 30 seconds in part 2. I would not say that's at length. Another thing is all the self-correction. So that, I think, pretty much limits her score for fluency and coherence to a 5. For lexical resource, there were a lot of instances where she used the wrong words. Like, let's see, instead of saying take drugs, she says eat drugs. She said issuing the law. That's not the right word. She says very perfect when you can't use very to describe perfect. I don't know what control violence is. Let's see, what else is there? Side effect is pretty good. Infect is pretty good. But too many inaccurate words used. So lexical resource, also I would say a 5. Now for grammar, she does use complex structures. This one is really difficult because you only get to hear part 2. I mean, complex structure. This is not really complex, but I mean here at least you can use a prepositional phrase on issuing this law, so that you can use a preposition correctly. This personally speaking sentence. Personally speaking, all the citizens want to live in the city. No, that's not a complex sentence. Where's the which sentence? Oh, here we go. Which. Drugs is a bad thing, which resulted in little and control violent behaviors. So, man, I don't know. Grammar is difficult. It's very difficult to say after just listening to part 2. Maybe a 4, because there are so many errors in the grammar. But it's really hard to say. Maybe a weak 5. Pronunciation 4, because there were so many things she said that I couldn't quite make out. I mean, I couldn't even really catch which law she was talking about. Here, because I couldn't make out what she said. Frequent mispronunciations. All right, let's move on to sample 3.
When it comes to a good law in my country, I would like to talk about the ban on drink and drive.
When it comes to, I don't know. I wouldn't use this either as an introduction, but it's not really terrible. But when it comes to, is also used when you consider different topics and you choose one. But in part 2, you're not choosing a topic.
To talk about the ban on drink and drive.
Now, I don't know if he said drinking and drive or drink and drive, but either way, it should be drinking and driving. Drinking and driving.
I think this law was carried out many years ago, but
laws are not carried out. Laws are passed. But again, this is China. Maybe carried out is okay, but I wouldn't use that. Put into force or put on the books, or I don't know. There are lots of words you can use, but not carried out.
This law was never being fully executed.
I don't know why we have a being here. So this law was never fully executed. Executed, again, not really the right word to use. The word that he's looking for is enforced. This law was never really enforced.
And since last year, I heard it on TV that...
And since last year, I heard it on TV. Why is there an it? Why is there a since? Because if you're going to use since, there's got to be present perfect here. But there's no has or have. So since last year, I have heard on TV that blah, 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 blah. So there's no it. I'm not sure about the since. I don't know if he means like he's been hearing this for a year. If he has been hearing it for a year, there should be a have here.
The police departments are going...
There's only one police department. Oh, well, no, that's not true. Maybe there are many. Never mind. I'm going to take that back.
To reinforce this law.
No, you can't reinforce the law. You can only enforce the law. There's no reinforce. I mean, there is reinforce, but to reinforce something means to make something stronger. Like, for example, you can reinforce a wall. You can, I don't know, put some metal rods in the wall, make the wall stronger. But laws are enforced, not reinforced.
So, and any people who drink and drive.
There's no were. Any people who drink and drive, no were.
Will be seriously punished. I think the government did this because in previous years, too many accidents have already happened.
There's no have. If you're talking about a specific time period, we don't use the present perfect tense. So in previous years, too many accidents happened. There's no have.
It caused a lot of damage and claiming many lives as well.
Claim is a verb, so happened. So a lot of accidents happened, a lot of damage was caused, and a lot of lives were claimed.
Many lives as well. I think this is a very good law for the following reasons. First of all, it protects life, both the driver's lives and the pedestrians.
Whoa, I should fix this. Drivers.
First of all, it protects
pedestrians as well. Let me put that apostrophe there. There we go.
First of all, it protects life, both the driver's lives and the pedestrians' lives.
But here he says lives. Lives, not lives. Lives.
Because when people are drunk, they will respond very slowly and they cannot see clearly.
Respond slowly. Okay. These two words go together well. See clearly. That's good too. And this double also. Sometimes they might even see double. That's a great word to use. Double.
Sometimes they might even see double. So it's very dangerous. And besides, I think this law reduces property loss.
These words go together very well. Reduce and loss.
You know, nowadays cars are very expensive. Some cars can cost up to 1 million RMB, and it'll be shame.
It'll be a shame. A shame.
R&B, and it'll be shame if such cars are just destroyed because people drink and drive.
Oh, this is the second one. Okay. I was wondering, whoa, he doesn't care about people's lives, but no, he did talk about that. Okay, third point.
And thirdly, I think this law gives a good excuse for people to refuse drinking.
Yeah, some other people mentioned this too. Some other people we're going to listen to. This is very interesting.
You know, my dad is a businessman, so he often
as a businessman, let's make this one sentence because it really does seem to be one sentence. So he often attends. Let's put an S there. All right, that makes more sense. Make that one sentence.
So he often attends various formal dinners, and on these occasions, people would persuade.
I don't know why there's a would there. Look at the referencing here. On these occasions, referring back to the formal dinners, that's good.
Occasions, people would persuade him to drink, but he couldn't refuse.
Oh, so he means before. Let's see, he didn't say before. People would. Okay, well, he did. He used would here, right? That means the past tense. I thought he made a mistake. But no, this is right. So previously, if I were him, I would just throw in a previously here. So we know that's not the case anymore. So previously, on these occasions, people would persuade him to do what? To drink, but he couldn't refuse. Okay, yeah, because here's the now, right? So if you just threw in a previously here, that would make it very clear and easy to follow, right?
Drink, but he couldn't refuse. Now that this law is in place.
Look at this, in place. Good phrase that goes very well with law. The law is in place. The law is on the books. The law is in force.
He could easily refuse them by saying that he doesn't want to be a criminal.
Refuse them. Very nice.
So in the future, I do believe that people in China will obey this law.
Obey is a word that goes well with law.
And drink and drive.
It's drinking and driving. Drinking and driving
will not exist in our society.
All right. Let's look at some possible scores. Okay, let's have a listen to sample 4.
When it comes to a good law, I'd like to talk about the ban on smoking in public places, which is a very important one. The law says that people are not allowed to smoke in public places.
Okay, so let's contrast this response with the previous one. Let's imagine that he spoke unclearly and I couldn't catch this part here. I couldn't catch about the ban on this smoking in public places. Let's imagine he spoke unclearly or whatever. It wouldn't matter because he rephrases it here. He says, the law says, people are not allowed to smoke in public places. So it's very difficult for the examiner not to clearly understand what you're saying. I think this is a pretty good tactic. Because if the examiner doesn't quite catch what you're talking about, it's difficult for them to follow the rest of your response. This is a great idea.
The law says that people are not allowed to smoke in public places, including airports, train stations, and museums.
Okay, fair enough, but I think we know what public places are, but he gives examples of these. Okay. All right, anyway.
Museums. If someone violates this law, he will be prosecuted and even sentenced.
Okay, so here we have some words directly related to law. We have violate the law, prosecuted, sentenced, so a good range of vocabulary.
This law was carried out a couple of years ago by the government.
Again, here though, he uses a word that's not exactly the right word. It's not really carried out. Now, I talked already about what the appropriate vocabulary would be, but it's not carried out.
Because smoking caused too many problems in the past. There are several aspects I'd like to talk about this law.
There are several aspects I'd like to talk about this law. Let's drop the this law, because what you would like to talk about are the aspects of the law. So you could say there are several aspects of the law I'd like to talk about. But this law has to be with aspects. There are several aspects of this law I'd like to talk about.
First of all, this law is good.
And he slips in the L there. It's not law, it's law.
For the health of the general public. When people smoke, they inhale a lot of toxic chemicals.
Good vocabulary. We've got inhale, we have toxic, we have chemicals.
Which can cause lung cancer.
But it's not lung cancer, it's lung cancer, lung cancer.
And those who are around them, such as women and children, will suffer from secondhand smoking.
It's secondhand smoke, not secondhand smoking.
Which is worse than first-hand smoke.
Not really important, but I don't know if this is true.
Secondly, this law benefits public safety. Sometimes people throw around their cigarette butts which are still burning.
Yeah, okay. If I were him, I would say people throw around. I don't know what he means by this really, because throw around really means you throw something around. Does it mean drop? I don't know. But anyway, why not put the burning and the cigarette butts together? Why not say sometimes people throw their burning cigarette butts on the ground.
This is a very serious potential threat to people's properties and even lives.
Lives. Property, let's keep this uncountable. People's property, not properties. Property.
Lastly, it benefits the environment. Some people throw away the ashes and butts regardless of the environment.
I don't know what this sentence means. What does he mean, regardless of the environment? Does he mean... I think maybe he means with no regard for the environment. If you don't care about something, it's with no regard for the environment.
They make the city look dirty and messy, and this law could enhance the image of the city.
Now I'm curious, why is this a city ordinance? Is this a law that only applies to the city? Which city is this? I thought it's in the whole country.
In the future, I hope this law can be executed better.
In the future, I hope this law can be executed better. Again, the word is enforced. I hope this law can be enforced better. But why does he throw this sentence in here at the end? Because he didn't talk about how the law is poorly enforced throughout his response. He just dropped this in at the end. It seems kind of out of place to say this. This is not well connected to anything else he said. Alright, let's look at some scores. All right, here we go with sample 5.
Describe a good law in your country. What kind of people can become police officers?
Okay, so this is part 3, not part 2.
There are many qualities that one should have if he wants to be a policeman. First
You once?
of all, he should be brave. Police officers often need to conquer
Police officers.
the villains at the crime scene.
Conquer is not the right word. Now, I don't know what he means. I mean, I think police officers need to apprehend the suspects at the crime scene. The word conquer is not right. Conquer is used like in a fighting army or something. Villain, I mean, come on. Villains are from movies. If you watch superhero movies, those are villains. So no. Apprehend. Suspects. Crime scene, okay.
If they're timid, they will not be able to do that. Also, they must be patient. Sometimes there are not many clues in a case, and that
Why? The way he talks is kind of lazy. The way he kind of slurs his words here.
not many clues in a case. In that case, they need to look into the details to see what leads they can have.
Oh, yeah, this is not his fault. This is the audio messing up. I don't know what he said there. Look into the detail to see what something they can have. Okay, I can't blame him for that. The audio messed up here.
Leads they can have.
Do you think both men and women can be police officers?
That's an odd question because there are female police officers now. There are male police officers now. So what do you mean can?
Yes, I think men and women can cooperate.
Men can't cooperate. Okay, let's see where he takes this.
Male officers are usually physically stronger, while female officers are more patient.
Oh boy. I think most people will probably agree with this. I mean, it's just a fact. Is this an objective fact? Female officers are more patient?
In order to solve a crime and find the criminal, both are needed. We should not have any prejudice to females in this occupation.
The grammar here is so simple. I mean, it's accurate, but simple. Look at this here. Men and women can cooperate. Okay, I don't know why this is here. That's not what the question is asking anyway. Do you think men and women can be police officers? Yes, they can cooperate, but that's not what the question is asking. Male officers are usually physically stronger. Okay, here we have a complex sentence. While female officers are more patient. Both are needed. We should not have any prejudice to females in this occupation. Simple sentence. I'm kind of let down by the grammar here.
Are officers paid too much?
Which officers? I should actually edit this. Because, I mean, really what she's asking is police officers. Let's throw in a police there. That's what the question should look like. Are police officers? Because there are many different kind of officers. Not every officer is a police officer.
Not at all. First of all, this is a dangerous job. They could lose their lives when they pursue a criminal.
Pursue is a good word.
So they need to invest a lot of time and energy into their work.
And energy, and he kind of slurs his words there.
We must pay a high salary so that capable young
We must pay a high salary. Why not say they must be paid a high salary?
people are willing to take this job so that our society can always be secure.
Kind of weird intonation here at the end.
Is kindness the most important quality of a police officer?
No. A police officer should not be kind to lawbreakers.
Lawbreakers? Good word to use.
I think the most important quality of a policeman or policewoman
Why not just say police officer?
is justice.
Justice is not a quality. justice is something that exists outside of your own personality or personal qualities.
Is justice. He or she cannot judge things by appearance.
They cannot judge things by appearance. Okay. So, let's see where he takes this.
He or she must judge things.
Whoa, there's no have there, is there?
He or she cannot judge things by appearance. He or she must judge things.
Oh, I know what happened. Yeah, but anyway, there's no have there. It kind of sounds like he says must.
Judge things by appearance.
They can't judge things by appearance, okay?
He or she must judge things by hard evidence.
Judging things by hard evidence, I'm not sure that really relates to kindness. The most important quality of a policeman is justice. Maybe this justice should be integrity. Maybe some improper use. Well, hard evidence, that's a good phrase to use, but there are some examples of improper vocabulary used here.
Do all Chinese people obey the law?
No. Every country has lawbreakers, and China is not an exception.
Good point.
We often see news on TV that many law offenders are arrested and sentenced to jail. As long as the majority of the public obey the law, the society is stable.
Chinese people care a lot about that. Yeah, I mean, this last answer is pretty much error-free. Do all Chinese people obey the law? Now, the examiner doesn't ask any follow-up questions. I mean, if somebody told me this, I would ask them, oh, okay, so what are most people arrested for? What are the crimes that a lot of people commit? But she didn't really do that here. Now, as for the scores, I've already talked about that, and I didn't hear anything in part 3 to make me change my mind. So let's move on to the next sample.
A law that is well known and favored by most Chinese people is the law of advertising.
The law of advertising. Okay, why not say advertising law?
It is a law that deals with illegal advertising contents that exaggerate the effects of products and sayings that are untrue.
Untrue, not untrue, untrue.
It has essential meaning in our country.
I don't know what this means. It has essential meaning in our country?
Because it provides protection.
Provides, not provides.
For consumers. As I am a senior account manager working in the advertising company.
Working in an advertising company. There are many companies, so we don't say the.
I have seen many examples in the past.
Whoa, is it just example?
I have seen many examples in the past.
Oh, no, there isn't S. I just wanted to talk about the grammar. Let's look at this here. As I am, I have seen. I do like the grammar here. That's pretty good.
Examples in the past. Some ad on TV or
some ads.
Presents.
This word is present, but she says in the past, but then she doesn't use the past tense. Why not say presented? Some ads on TV are always presented as the product.
Products with best sales.
I don't know what that means. Some advertisements on TV always presented the products with the best sales. I don't know.
Optimal ingredients.
Optimal ingredients. Is she talking about food? I don't really understand the optimal I understand. Ingredients I understand, but I don't know what she's talking about here. Is she talking about food?
And so on. Well, in fact, those prices were false.
This word, I think she's trying to say premise.
In fact, those prices were
maybe not. I can't make out the word.
Or exaggerated.
when talking about advertising, I think exaggerated is a great word to use.
As it has caused serious loss for consumers.
But losses are countable. So why is it? Because here, those, right? So this is going to be plural. So those, whatever this is, they have caused serious losses for consumers.
Serious loss for consumers. I believe this law was urgently needed. Now, as the law is well developed, I think
the law is well developed. Can laws become developed? I never hear this used to talk about laws. Is this an adjective used to describe laws? Maybe you could say now, as the law has become more extensive.
Is well developed. I think there are two groups of people would be.
Two groups of people who would be, but why not use the present tense? Isn't it happening now? There are two groups of people who are influenced.
The first step is.
Why step? Why not group? You just said two groups, and now you say step. It's kind of confusing.
The first step is consumers. They could benefit from this law. They are now being empowered, and they have the right to tell what advertising is good or not.
But you don't need a law to be able to tell what advertising is good or not. You can just look at an ad and say, hey, this is terrible. Do you need a law for that? I don't understand what she's trying to say here.
Whereas in the past, before the announcement of this law, many consumers were deceived to purchase.
This is a verb. This is a noun? I don't understand what's going on in this sentence. Whereas in the past, before the announcement of this law, I guess in China laws are just announced. Okay. Alright, so before this law went into effect, consumers were deceived by fake products. The purchase I'm very confused about. So consumers were deceived by fake products, suffered. What's that?
Consumers were deceived to purchase fake products, suffered great loss both mentally and physically.
Okay, so the suffered goes with the loss. Okay, consumers who were deceived by fake products suffered great losses, both mentally and physically. Okay.
Great loss both mentally and physically. This law also makes brand owners to reconsider the.
You don't make something to something. There's no to there. So this law makes. Maybe I should listen to the whole sentence first.
Makes brand owners to reconsider the role of advertising in their marketing strategy.
Maybe forces. Okay, so this law forces brand owners to reconsider the role of advertising in their marketing strategy.
Consider the role of advertising in their marketing strategy and begin taking it seriously. So, based on the above.
No, first of all, the word is above. Second of all, when you're talking, there's nothing above you. We only say above in writing. In speaking, there's no above. There's no piece of paper where you can look up and see what's been written above.
I think this law is a good law because it
you're struggling here at the end.
Has brought positive impact in our country.
Positive impact on. I don't know if she's saying broad or brought. Maybe I should listen again.
Has brought positive impact in our country.
I don't know. If it's broad, it should be has had. Then there's no verb. Then it must be has had a broad positive impact in our country. If it's brought, then what will the sentence be then? Then the sentence will be, it has brought, but brought is the wrong verb. It has had a positive impact on our country. I don't know, it's confusing. Positive impact, the verb is usually just have. So something has a positive impact on. The preposition is on. Alright. Let's look at some scores. Okay, for Fluency and Coherence, yeah, she was definitely able to speak at length. In fact, she spoke for 2 minutes and 10 seconds, which is too long. You cannot talk for that long. The examiner will definitely cut you off. She did lose some coherence at times, not so much because of repetition, but because of the hesitation. Like here at the end when she spoke so slowly, and she wasn't quite sure what to say. But I mean, in general, she did use some good cohesive features, like for example this. Let's see. Whereas in the past there were some good phrases there. Here she used some referencing. They. The first step. Well, actually, I'm not sure about the step. The first is good. Step was vocabulary problems. She used phrases like as I am. Okay, so not so much the coherence, more the delivery. For Lexical Resource, see again, it's very difficult if you just look at part 2 to see if she has a wide enough vocabulary to discuss topics, because there's only one topic here. But we can understand what she's saying, even though she uses inappropriate words. So 6, grammar. She did make a lot of mistakes in complex structures, but we can still understand what she's saying. 6. Pronunciation. 5. Not all the features from band 6 are present. It's not easy to understand everything she's saying, and she doesn't use a whole lot of stress or chunking when she talks. Okay, let's have a listen to sample 7.
Describe a good law in your country. Like in most countries in China, there is a traffic law. The newly updated version brought more significant benefits to the society. The new traffic law was adopted last year, I think, which gives a...
Now hang on a second here. Okay, so the introduction is a little unorthodox, but it's fine. She said, like in most countries, in China there's a traffic law, so presumably this is what she wants to talk about. Here we have some vocabulary, newly updated version. Laws don't really have versions. And with laws are not really updated. Laws are changed. Updated would be like with software. Laws are not updated. So you could say the newly changed law, but not the newly updated version. The newly changed law brought more benefits, but then she doesn't go on to talk about the benefits. She talks about how it was adopted last year. Here she's using the passive. The law was adopted last year. That's pretty good. Here we see harsher punishment. That is also good. And here we have this relative clause which gives. Let's continue listening.
Gives a harsher punishment to people who does drunken driving.
But now she says people and does. So it's people who drive under the influence. That's what you should say. People who drive under the influence. That's what DUI stands for. Driving under the influence. You don't do drunk driving. You drive under the influence.
Their license.
Or maybe their licenses.
Will be revoked immediately, and they could even face criminal charges.
Now the noun is crime, but the adjective is criminal, not criminal. Criminal.
I knew about this law was because...
Now why do you knew? Why not know? You don't know about it now? I know about this law, not I knew about this law. I know about this law And there's no was, because I know was.
In preparing for the driving license test.
I have been preparing. Okay, so I know about this law because I have been preparing. I don't know why. I don't understand why she's using the present perfect here. Because I am preparing, or I prepared, or I was getting ready to take the driving license test. Don't know why it's present perfect here.
I think anyone living in China can
Anyone living in China.
be affected by this law. Not only the drivers, but also the pedestrians on the roads. The biggest reason that I would consider this law to be a beneficial one is
Look at the modals here. I would consider this law to be, that's pretty good.
that it sends out a clear message that DUI is intolerable in China.
Now here she knows about DUI, but she didn't use this earlier. She said, what did she say again? Does drunken driving. This is what she should say. Driving under the influence.
In China. I remember in the past before the law wasn't so complete.
Before the law wasn't so complete. I don't know what this means. How is a law not complete? Does she mean the law was not enforced by the police? Or, I don't know, maybe that's what she means. Maybe the problem here is law enforcement.
People took chances after they're drunk.
They're drank. After they drank, there's no R.
It caused numerous amount of traffic accidents.
Accidents are countable, so let's not use amount. It caused numerous... drop the amount. We have numerous here already. It caused numerous traffic accidents.
Year. I think this behavior was quite irresponsible, but
irresponsible.
To themselves and to the other people.
Why the? What group of people are you talking about? No, the.
The other positive change is that the police force that has been sent on catching DUIs.
The police force that has been sent on. Sent usually goes with the preposition to, but you send something or someone to a place. You can't send someone to... This is not even a tangible noun. So maybe the police force that was tasked with catching... But DUI is not a person. A DUI is an action. So the police force tasked with drunken driving, maybe? Tasked with, not sent on.
Were increased significantly.
The police force. Police force singular, but here we have were.
Significantly. Every night there are police checking on main roads. Intercept people for alcohol test.
I think that's a roadblock. So every night there are police. I don't know if they're checking the roads. I'm not sure. Every night there are police on the roads putting up roadblocks to do alcohol tests.
People for alcohol test. I guess this action intimidates drunk
I don't know. Okay, let's listen to the last word.
Driver as well.
I don't know what she's saying here. Because to intimate means to make something clear, or sometimes it means to hint at something. So if she says, I guess this action intimates drunk driver as well. I don't know what word she wants to use, but intimate is not the right word. I don't understand what she's saying. Intimate is not the right word. I can't guess what the word is she's trying to say. Okay, let's look at some scores. Alright, let's see. Fluency and Coherence. She spoke for, I don't know, it was a minute and 50 seconds. So she did speak at length. I didn't notice too much. Oh, why is there no gap here? I didn't notice too much loss of coherence. Let's look at the connectives and discourse markers that were used. Like in most countries, the new traffic law, referring back to what you mentioned before, I think again, not only, but also, I remember in the past, some referencing, I think again. Wow, there are a lot of I thinks in this. There's a I think again. Maybe I should rethink this. No. If it's fluent enough. I guess this action. Yeah. Discourse markers are a little bit weak, but hey, it was very fluent. So I would say for fluency and coherence, it would be a 7. Lexical resource, I would say 6, because there were too many examples of inappropriate words, like for example here, intercept, people for alcohol test, that's not right. Intimate, I don't know what she means by that. The law wasn't so complete, I don't know what that means. But we have good phrases like clear message, we have intolerable, beneficial, criminal, revoke. Alright, so it's pretty good vocabulary to discuss the topic. And the meaning is pretty clear, right? Grammar, I would say also a 6. I think I pointed out all the mistakes. And pronunciation, also a 6. I wish I could get my gaps right. So mispronunciations, we saw a few of those, and they do sometimes reduce clarity, but only sometimes. So I think 6 is appropriate. Let's have a listen to the next one. Okay, here we go with sample 8. Let's have a listen to this.
I'm going to talk about the first law that comes into my mind.
Okay, first of all, no, this is not true. Like I said before, you had a minute to you had a minute to prepare, to think about what you're going to say.
It is stipulated in the Chinese constitution that citizens are prohibited from carrying guns or weapons
Weapons
of the same sort. Or weapons of the same sort.
It started off good, but now I'm confused. I mean, here, it's stipulated. That's very good. In the Constitution, citizens are prohibited from carrying guns. That's good. Of the same sort. Now, she repeats this, but I don't know, as the same sort as what? As the same as... I don't know.
Or weapons of the same sort. I think it was put into the law by our founders.
It was put... It was put into law. But what does the it mean? The it is the law, isn't it? First law. The law. The law was put into the law. Now, what does that mean? The law was put into effect, or the... I don't know much about the Chinese constitution, but I mean, a lot of constitutions have articles. Some have amendments. So this stipulation or this amendment or this article was put into the Constitution by our founding fathers. Okay, so the it doesn't work. It should be article or... what am I thinking of now? Amendment, something like that. And I think by law, maybe she means Constitution. Maybe if I listen to the rest of the sentence, I'll be able to make out what she's saying.
I think it was put into the law by our founding fathers since the establishment of our country,
Since the establish. Establish is a verb. So I think what she's trying to say is since the establishment of our country. But why does she use since? It was put into the Constitution by our founding fathers since. So they've been doing it since, I don't know, when was the PRC founded? 1949? So they've been doing this for, 70, 68 years? No, there's no sense. So it was put into the Constitution when our country was founded. Founded, not established. And there's no sense.
Established of our country, of our nation, the People's Republic of China. I guess I have always known it. However, I wasn't aware of it only until I read news about school shooting incidents.
She's talking very fast here. That detracts from the clarity of her speech. There's a whole lot of repetition going on here.
It is about a random person entering a campus out of the blue. He shot and wounded.
Here we have the past tense. Here we have the present tense. He shot and wounded
a dozen of innocent students. After reading the news, I was suddenly struck by the fact that.
What is this word? Is it suddenly?
After reading the news, I was suddenly struck by the fact.
Suddenly struck. If it is suddenly, it goes very well with struck, but she mispronounces the words. I'm not sure what she's saying. Suddenly struck, that's very good. Struck by the fact, good phrase. Not such good pronunciation.
That it is illegal to own a gun or even bullets in China. How about that?
Who are you asking this question to? Are you asking me? Well, if you're asking me, it sounds like the government is afraid that people are going to take up weapons against them. Let's go on.
How about that?
Oh, by the way, don't ask the examiner questions because they can't respond. So don't do this. Don't ask them what they think about anything.
How about that? This law affects all Chinese and even foreign visitors who are currently within Chinese borders.
Okay, yeah.
It guarantees a safe.
The word is guarantees. There's no n here. Guarantees, not guaranteeings.
Environment of all of us.
For all of us. It guarantees a safe environment for all of us. Well, that's one way of looking at it.
Before the People's Republic of China was founded.
See, here she uses the right word. Here she said establish. Countries aren't established. Is that wrong? Maybe not wrong, but I mean, usually we do use the word founded, like here.
Was crawling with stocks and mobs.
Okay, so before the country was crawling with, I do like the crawling with. That's a good phrase to use.
Was crawling with stocks and mobs.
Some good vocabulary here. I don't know why here it's plural. Here it's singular. Thugs and then just one thug. Mobs is also good.
Who used the wireless in our land.
Now, I don't know what this word is. It sounds a lot like wireless. I'm assuming it's wildness. But if it's wildness, it's not the right word. Maybe she means lawlessness? Who used the lawlessness in our land? It really sounds like wireless, though.
With stocks and mobs who used the wireless in our land.
Man, that sounds like wireless. I think she's trying to say wildness.
They used weapons such as rifles.
Rifles.
After the implementation.
Okay, she's confusing employment and implementation. I mean, these words are very, very different. That's not a good sign.
After the implementation of the law, crime rates had
crime rates
increased year by year.
I don't know why this. Did she say had, or am I imagining that?
Of the law, crime rates had decreased.
No, there's no had. This is just past tense. So crime rates, or the crime rate. Yeah, usually for crime rate, we just say the crime rate. The crime rate decreased year on year, or as she says, year by year.
towards a visionary decision. Thanks to this law,
Whoa, it was a visionary what?
towards a visionary decision. Thanks
Don't know. Visionary something?
this law, we are able to wander on the dark net street with
What is happening here? We are able to okay, wait. Thanks to this law, we're able to venture. I think it's venture, but it does sound like vendor. Venture out on the dark night or net. Which one is it?
net street with fair.
I'm assuming she says street, but it sounds like straight.
Only of ghosts, and not for having our lives taken by money-seeking thugs.
Oh man, this is really unclear. What?
And not for having our lives taken by money-seeking thugs.
I do like the money-seeking thugs, but I'm missing out on a lot because I can't hear what she's saying.
And thanks to this law, if I run into a mugger, I have a fighting chance.
Fighting chance? That's pretty nice.
After all, a ship is not a gun. I could outrun the ship, but never could I outrun a flying bullet.
There's a lot here that I can't catch. I mean, I know she's not talking about ships, but what is she saying here?
Fighting chance. After all, a ship is not a gun.
After our ship is not a gun.
Fighting chance. After all, a ship is not a gun. I could outrun the ship, but never.
I could outrun the shape. Don't know.
Could I outrun a flying bullet?
Interesting. Let's look at some scores. Alright, Fluency and Coherence. She spoke for 2.5 minutes, which is not realistic. It's never going to happen in real life. We saw a lot of repetition, a lot of self-correction, and we saw some disfluent speech when she was trying to use more complex language. If we go to vocabulary, she does have a wide vocabulary. I mean, look at the words she used here. Stipulated, constitution, prohibited, weapons, founding fathers. What else is good? Random persons, not bad. Out of the blue, we even see some idiomatic language here. Out of the blue, look at that. Dozen, innocent. Struck by the fact. That's also very nice. But a lot of inappropriacies also. Like... Actually, maybe I shouldn't say inappropriacy. It's just a lot of times I don't know what she's saying. After the she confuses employment and implementation. It was a visionary what? And like here, if it's net, I don't know what it is. If it's night, then the preposition is wrong. With fears only of ghosts, not having our lives taken. I would like to give her a 7. I mean, because look at this here. If I run into a mugger, that's really good, right? It's really, really good language. But then there are so many examples of her saying stuff that I just don't understand. Like, outrunning the shape. Is that really what she said? There are too many fighting chance. Look at that. That's also really good. But too many things that I just can't make out. And she confuses bullet and flying. This is more pronunciation. But I mean, I would really like to give her a 7, but there were just too many things that you said that I couldn't make out. Grammar. Let's see here. Sentences are prohibited of the same sort. Sort? She doesn't say same sort as what? It was put into the law, and here this since is not right. I guess I've always known it. I've always known about it. I wasn't aware until I read the news. Okay, that's relatively error-free. Here we have past tense, present tense. Alright, so my point is, a lot of mistakes. Pronunciation, it's got to be a 5. Simply because there are too many things she said that are unclear and really difficult to make out. Alright, let's have a listen to sample 9.
Well, I like to talk about the law about family planning because when
I guess it's family planning, but it sounds like family play.
Listen to an English session, my teacher who started in
What English session?
UCL in 2013 and majored politics, her peers who were supposed
to, she talks like this. Okay, so she has no rhythm in English. I'm confused about the session. I don't know what that is. Majored in politics, her peers. The sentence is difficult to follow. What is she saying here? The sentence is too long. When I listen to an English session, my teacher, who blah 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 blah, her peers. It's too long. I can't tell what the subject of the sentence is. Here, she should have started a new sentence. So, my teacher's peers, who were supposed to focus on the course, blah 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 blah.
Her peers who were supposed to focus on the course after they learned Chinese family planning, but were interested in her because
I don't know what she's saying here. Her peers were supposed to focus on the course. What course? Oh, politics. After they learned Chinese. Why are they learning Chinese when they're studying politics? What?
To focus on the course after they learned Chinese family planning, but were interested in her because they wanted to ask her if someone had a baby, would she be killed when she had another?
Okay, they wanted to ask her. They wanted to ask her, or they did ask her? If someone had a baby, if someone has a baby, would she be killed when she had another? Okay.
It sounded like an interesting joke, but it is really thought-provoking.
Thought-provoking.
Maybe
Event? Question? It's a really thought-provoking question, not event.
Event. Maybe people from different countries do not really know about this law. Actually, China has changed.
Actually, good on her. And actually, let's put a comma there.
Do not really know about this law. Actually, China has changed this law in 2015.
Why is this in the past perfect tense? Why not just say, actually, China changed this law in 2015? Why do we need the had?
Which has accepted one family to birth more than one child.
Okay, and here we go from the past tense to the present perfect tense, has accept. I don't know that. What is the subject of this accept? Because this is the verb, right? So the subject is what? China? China accepted that one family can... Families don't give birth to children. Only women give birth to children. So families can have children. So does she mean China accepted that one family can have more than one child? Maybe.
To birth more than one child.
To have more than one child.
I think it is pretty good for residents and our country which admit.
Residents. Does she mean citizens?
Good for residents and our country which admits more new lives come to the world.
Oh no. Here I have the same problem. Which admits. Okay, so this has to refer to a noun. What is the noun here? Is it the country? Presumably, because this is the noun that precedes this relative clause. So the country, so China, which admits more new lives. I don't know what that means.
New lives come to the world.
I don't know. Admit a life. Not sure what that means.
Provided a family happiness and pushes the education and other industry developed and
here's the verb pushes. What's the subject? I don't know. I guess it's not family happiness. Family happiness pushes education. I think, does she mean promote? Maybe promote. It promotes education and other industries. But here we have develop. All right, so it pushes, it promotes education and the development of other industries. The development of other industries.
In education and other industry developed, and besides for future, after 20 years there will be more youngsters who can contribute to our
contribute. The word is contribute. In the future, but usually says 20 years also. So why not say 20 years in the future there will be more youngsters who can contribute. So 20 years in the future.
There will be more youngsters who can contribute to our country's development.
And she still talks like this.
And during 1990s.
During the 1990s.
China are developing well.
This is very odd. This is obviously in the past. Present tense. China was
the high speed after.
China was developing well with high speed. I don't know what this means. China was rapidly developing. In the 1990s, China was rapidly developing.
The reform and opening. The life standard improved.
The living standard, not the life standard. The living standard.
Well, so people want to have.
People wanted to have more children,
which means that.
Which meant, she's talking about the 1990s, which meant
happiness and prosperous over family.
Ooh, I think this is prosperity, but I'm not sure. Prosperity? What did she say?
Happiness and prosperous over family.
I'm guessing prosperity, because happiness, prosperity, but it doesn't sound anything like prosperity. It sounds like something completely different. But if it is prosperity, I don't know what this is, which meant happiness and prosperity for our family. Is she talking about her own family?
And prosperous over family.
Okay, I'm guessing now. So, which meant happiness and prosperity for our families.
However, for the society, it is the
society.
rules and a kind of strain to have more new babies, like baby booming after World War II.
It's baby boom, not baby booming. After the baby boom after World War II.
The War II in Europe and America.
I believe it's America.
So our country took this law to control birth in 21.
Don't know what she's saying here. So our country adopted this law to control births. 21. Don't know what that refers to. Last time I heard a date was the 1990s. I was thinking maybe she's talking about the 21st century, because here she mentioned 2015, right? 2013. So could be 21st century. Don't know. Not sure.
Birth in 21. It would be funny if someone had at least two children. It didn't kill people.
Yeah, that is funny, not to kill people. I don't know what she's saying here. It would be funny if someone had at least two children and didn't kill them during this reason. No, I don't know.
During this reason. And what
During this reason.
impressed me a lot was that when I was 7 years old in 29.
What is this number? What are these numbers that she's using? 21, 29. When I was 7 years old in 29. It's a mystery. I don't know what calendar she's using.
In 29, my mother experienced unwanted pregnancy and
pregnancy. My mother experienced an unwanted pregnancy. I do like the unwanted pregnancy. That's pretty good.
My mother experienced unwanted pregnancy and abortion because
that she had an abortion. Abortion needs a different verb. I don't think you experience abortions. You have an abortion. Have. The verb for abortion is have.
Family could not afford the funding fees to feed this baby.
Okay, some more guesswork needs to go into this here.
Then
time, because at that time, my family couldn't afford financial fees to feed the baby. No. At that time, my family couldn't afford to feed the baby. My family couldn't afford to feed the baby. There's no financial fees. The financial fees is implied by the word afford.
They could not afford the funding fees to feed this baby, which made my mother sigh and cried to lose him. It was really a sadness that time. I think for one thing, it's a historical problem before.
I'm guessing this word is pregnancy. Is a historical problem.
For what?
But before, then why is this not in the past tense? Was a historic problem.
One thing is a historical problem before for watching the social and economic structure. Our country had to launch.
What is she saying here? Why watching? Pregnancy is a historic problem for watching the economic structure. It can't be watching. That doesn't make any sense.
Historical problem before for watching the
sounds like watching
social and economic structure. Our
structure.
Country had to launch its law, but now
laws are not launched. I think we talked about these verbs before. It's not launched. Our country had to adopt this law or promulgate this law or put this law into effect.
Country had to launch its law, but now we value people's rights and
I think now we value people's rights.
Respect new laws.
Values, presumably. Values.
That's pretty much about the good law, I think.
Okay, so that's pretty much it about the good law, I think. That's pretty much it. Wow, alright, this is really long. Let's look at some score. This was absurdly long, more than 3 minutes. A lot of fluency problems, a lot of comprehension problems. I couldn't understand a lot of what she was saying. 5. Lexical Resource. Let's see. She was able to talk about the topic. Now, here, it doesn't really contain the language that I want to use when discussing what she said. A lot of the words that she used were inappropriate. Too many inappropriate words were used. Let's see if we can find some examples. Like here, afford the financial fees. No. I was 7 years old in 29. What is she saying there? I don't know. Grammar. The grammar she used caused comprehension problems. 5. Pronunciation. 5 again. Biggest problem is the rhythm. She doesn't use rhythm when she talks. She talks like this, pronouncing every syllable. So, 5 overall. Alright, let's have a listen to sample 10.
Oh, well, in terms of this topic,
I remember this guy. He always starts the same way. Please do not use this introduction. Drop this first part. Just start with, I'd like to talk about a good law in my country. Not in terms of this topic. Please don't say that.
I'd like to talk about a good law
Okay, again, audio problems, not his fault.
in my country that is no smoking in public places. I think it's a really good law, you know. It's a common sense that
It's not a common sense. It's common sense. It's common sense that
in many countries in the world that smoking is really bad for your health.
it's common sense in many countries in the world. But if something is common sense, it's common sense everywhere. How is it only common sense in some countries? I'm confused.
The public's health, right? So it is banned almost everywhere. But here in China,
Look at the stress here. But here in China,
pity, it's really shameful that
do we really need shame and shameful?
the law took effect in 2000.
The law, do we need all this repetition here?
It's kind of late, but it's better late than never, right?
Who is he asking all these questions to? Don't ask the examiner questions.
Late than never, right? So there's no doubt that the smoking is
There's no duh, it's just smoking.
really a bad thing for people's health.
Didn't you just say this already? Really bad for your health, it's really bad for your health. Why is there so much repetition in this?
There's no doubt that the smoking is really a bad thing for people's health. But here in China, you can see heavy smokers, twin smokers.
I think I should put a comma there. Heavy smokers, chain smokers. Again, isn't this the same thing? Why all this repetition?
Thing for people's health. But here in China, you can see heavy smokers, twin smokers. They're smoking everywhere, in restaurants, in the bathroom, in offices, and even in classrooms. Some teachers are smoking in the classroom. Can you believe it or not?
Okay, number 1, don't ask the examiner questions. Number 2, the phrase is, can you believe it? There's no or not. Can you believe it?
Can you believe it?
Okay, here he gets it right.
It's just ridiculous, right? So that's why I think this law is really necessary, and it's a really good law. I think it should be really effective.
I think it's necessary, and I think it's good. I think it will be effective. Okay.
Fortunately, we have this law to ban public smoking, to ban smoking in public places.
It's really too much repetition. Smoking, smoking, smoking.
We have this law to ban public smoking, to ban smoking in public places. And that's a really good news for secondhand smokers.
I don't think there are really secondhand smokers. There is such a thing as secondhand smoke, but not secondhand smoker. I mean, you can secondhand smoke is when, of course, I think everybody knows that, when you yourself don't smoke, but you inhale the smoke of someone else. But that's called secondhand smoking, not secondhand smoker.
Especially for little babies. If you think about the picture that adults smoking in front of a baby, that's so sad.
Okay, number one, how many times is he going to say you know? You know, you know. If you think about the picture, I think here he should use picture as a verb. So if you picture adults smoking in front of a baby, that's so sad.
That adults smoking in front of a baby, that's so sad. That's very rude.
Is it rude? I don't know. Does the baby know what you're doing?
That's not very civilized.
Wait a second. Surely this is not love.
That's very rude. That's not very civilized.
Okay, well, it's not love. I don't know what he said. I don't know why I came up with love for that. Let me give this another listen.
That's very rude. That's not very civilized.
Okay, it's not love.
However, the sad part of the law is that it's not very strictly enforced.
The sad part of the law. Do laws have sad parts to them? I think what he means is, unfortunately, this law is not very strictly enforced. Unfortunately, not the sad part.
Strictly enforced. That's why you can still see smokers. They're smoking.
You can still see smokers, they're smoking. Well, what else is a smoker going to do? By definition, they smoke. What?
Whenever and everywhere, wherever they like. And that's so sad. I believe that it's we have to say that the key point is not about the law. It's about that we enforce the law.
The key point is not the law. There's no about. If you say key point, we don't need a preposition. So the key point is not the law. It's about the enforcement. Why not change this into a noun? It's not the law. It's the enforcement.
Respect the law. That we believe in rule by law.
It's not rule by law. We believe in the rule. What am I saying? We believe in... What did I want to say now? The rule of law. I was confused by this for a second. We believe in the rule of law. Rule of law. We believe in the rule of law. Wow, I had to say that 3 times to myself. Okay.
That's the most important. So no smoking in public place is the good law I'd like to talk about right here.
I'd like to talk about. Well, didn't you say this in the beginning? Why do you need to repeat this at the end? This is not even a summary. This is just a repetition of the very first sentence. Okay. Let's look at some scores. Okay, let's talk about fluency and coherence. Now, he spoke for 2 minutes and 15 seconds, which make this unrealistically long. To get a 7, you have to use discourse markers with some flexibility. Let's see here. You know. Right. Can you believe it? Right. You know. You know. You know. Overuse of discourse markers. You can't give somebody a 7 if they say you know so many times. Sorry, it's got to be a 6. I'd like to give him a 7 because he spoke quite fluently, but too many you knows there. And also, don't ask the examiner questions. Okay, let's move on to vocabulary. To get a 7, You have to be able to use vocabulary flexibly. Now, unfortunately, like I said before, we don't know if he's able to discuss a variety of topics because here he just talked about a law. But he relied too much on smoking. Okay, because here he's talking about smoking, smokers, smoking, smoke, smoke again. Heavy reliance on smoking. I mean, I know it's the topic, but wow, smoking appeared too often. And if we look at the awareness of style and collocation, well, it said rule by law instead of we should believe in the rule of law. So it's an attempt, but it's not successful. And with prepositions, the key point is not the law, he said about the law. Sad. No, not sad. Oh, here, this part. The sad part of the law. Laws don't have sad parts. So I'd like to give him a 7, but no, it's got to be a 6. For grammar, oh, wait a second. I should put the 7 here. To get a 7 for grammar, you need to be able to use complex structures with some flexibility. Not a whole lot of complex structures. I'd like to talk about a good law in my country. That's no smoking in public places. It's a good law. It's common sense. It's banned almost everywhere. It's really shameful. Okay, well here, this is a complex sentence. And then simple sentence. There's no doubt smoking is really a bad thing. Simple sentence. Simple sentence. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? That's just ridiculous. Simple. It's necessary. It's a really good law. All right, so my point is not enough examples of complex structures. Grammar, even though his grammar is pretty accurate, it's got to be a 6. It can't be a 7. Pronunciation, 7. It's pretty easy to understand everything he's saying. He did use stress and intonation to some good effect. So pronunciation, best feature, I'd say 7. All right, so let's have a listen to sample 11. This is basically the same as sample 10. The guy got some notes from his teacher. He's going to give us a different response to the same topic. Let's see if he does better this time. If I look at the length, this one's even longer.
Well, in terms of this topic, I'd like to talk about a very good, very good law in China. It's called no smoking in public places. You know, this law took effect in 2000.
What is all this noise? Okay, it's not in fact, it's effect. Took effect.
Like 19 years ago. You know, it's been in effect for about.
I think he means to say been, but it's not like beaten. It's beaten into effect. Let's see. It's been in effect for about 20 years. All right.
20 years. Okay.
Don't ask questions.
I think it's a very good law. According to the law, smoking in public places like restaurants, cinema, museums, hospitals, it basically is banned. Yeah, I think it's kind of late compared to Western countries, you know?
You know? No, I don't know.
But better late than never, right? If you break the law, if you smoke in public places, like a teacher smoking in the classroom.
Now, did he say smoke or smoking here?
Law, if you smoke in public places, like a teacher smoking in classrooms.
I think he did say smoking. He didn't say smoke. All right, let's change that. He didn't actually say that. Smoking. Oops. There we go. Okay, like a teacher smoking in the classroom. Yeah, he's giving us examples of people breaking the law.
Law, if you smoke in public places, like a teacher smoking in classrooms, like a doctor smoking in the hospital, okay, you'll be...
Why is this okay here?
Right. You'll be fined 200 yuan. Yeah, that's good, but I don't think it's good enough.
Okay, so it's severe, because he's trying to describe how he thinks the fine should be more. So it's severe, but I don't think it's severe enough.
That's good, but I don't think it's good enough. You know, I think the fine should be like even more serious, like more damaging.
Fines aren't supposed to be damaging. Fines are supposed to be punitive. I mean, if you use the word punitive, I would say great, but not damaging. Severe or punitive.
For example, 2,000 yuan. Okay, we have to lift the bar a little bit higher.
Raise the bar. See, again here, he has an idea, but then he just gets the words a little bit wrong. It's not lift the bar, it's raise the bar. So what he's trying to say is we should increase the standard. But to raise the bar, like I just said, is to make the standard a little bit higher. And when it comes to fines, that's not raising the bar. Raising the bar has to do with quality or other kinds of standards. He's not using the right words here.
Lift the bar a little bit higher. We all know that smoking is really bad for your health. It can cause all kinds of diseases like...
Oh boy, here we go with all the diseases. All right.
Lung cancer, throat cancer, heart attack, high blood
Heart attacks.
pressure and stuff like that. But there's still a whole bunch of lot of people.
Stuff like that. But there are still... Okay, a whole bunch of people. Don't use bunch and a lot of together. There's still a whole bunch of people smoking in China.
A lot of people smoking in China. You can see young people and old people, young men, women, gay, straight.
I mean, is it really necessary to tell us who smokes?
You know, smokers all everywhere. That's horrible. You know, to make it worse, secondhand smoking is really, really, really serious situation here.
Secondhand smoke.
You know, it's secondhand smoking is really harmful for those people for the non-smokers. You know, especially for babies. You know.
Man, there are even more you knows in this than the first time.
If you're sitting in a restaurant, you can see a lot of smokers. They're smoking. They're smoking all the time.
Is this true about China? People smoke in restaurants all the time.
And right next to their table, probably there's a family.
There's probably a family. Why would there be a family next to smokers? Why is that a probability?
You know, and the babies right there, children are there. That's just horrible. By introducing this law, I think the Chinese government sent a very good signal.
Sent a very good signal, not of.
Okay. So that's...
Oh, signal. Yeah, okay, I guess it's a signal.
Cigarettes consuming is bad.
Cigarette consuming. If you're going to use the word consuming, the noun has to be singular. Cigarette consuming is bad. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say cigarette consuming before. Isn't it just smoking? Smoking is bad?
All right. Unfortunately, of course, you can see this law is not very effective right now.
See now, strictly observed. Laws, observe. Well, usually we say obey. It's not strictly obeyed.
It is not strictly observed at all.
Obeyed.
You still can see heavy smokers, chain smokers are smoking like everywhere, whenever and wherever they want. It's horrible. I think we need to take it seriously. We need to punish them. We need to punish them like seriously, right? I think the law should be respected. We need to believe in rule by law.
The rule of law, same thing again.
You know, so to sum up, my point is that no smoking in public is a
no smoking public. A ban on smoking in public. A ban on smoking in public.
Good law, but we need to respect the law. You know, simply because smoking is a really terrible thing.
How many times has he said this already now? Oh, and then it's a terrible thing because I don't smoke. What a bizarre thing to say.
You know, because I myself don't smoke. I will.
That doesn't make any sense.
Not smoke in the future, no matter what.
Well, I don't think I would change the score. In fact, this might be worse. How long is this? Well, this time he spoke for more than 3 minutes. He didn't make anything better, so my comments still stand. Same thing, just more of it. Alright, here goes sample 12.
I want to describe a law that was amended in 2011 and came into effect immediately.
Okay, that's pretty good. Came into effect. That's a great phrase to use with laws.
Came into effect immediately. I remember that was 8 years ago when I heard it on the air. It says,
It said,
driving is a criminal behavior.
Criminal behavior. Okay, criminal behavior, criminal offense maybe?
If you are found driving after drink, they would get us.
I don't know why it's in the present tense now, because she's talking about 2011. So why is everything in the present tense? I wish you would speak a little louder. Let's see if I can boost the volume. It said drunk driving was a criminal offense. If people were found driving after drinking,
they would get a serious penalty, which included several months detention, revoking of their
detention. Okay, great word.
Driving license and fine for thousands RMB.
And what? Fines. Fines of thousands of RMB.
The law is much harsher compared with the previous law on drink driving.
Here's a nice comparative sentence, which is accurate. Yeah, compared with, alright.
A recent government report said over 3,000 people were killed and 9,000 were injured during the last 5 years.
Notice how flat her voice is. There's no stress, there's no intonation, there's no pausing. She doesn't pause between anything.
Drink driving is not only harmful.
It's kind of interesting. Here she says drink driving, which is right, but this is usually a phrase used in England. But it's not wrong. You can say drink driving, you can say drunk driving, both are fine.
Drink driving is not only harmful to yourself, it also puts others in danger. So in my opinion, this law could be a great deterrent.
Ah, look at that word, a great deterrent. Excellent. Okay.
Deterrent. After the law came into effect, the number of drunk driving cases fell dramatically.
Fell dramatically.
What's more, I often see traffic police taking the drunk driving as a cross.
Take the drunk driving. Does she mean drunk driver? Maybe drunk drivers, not drunk driving.
Police taking the drunk driving as a crossings, as a carry.
What is this here? I don't know what she's saying here. This I can't make out.
The drunk driving as a crossings.
The crossings?
As a casual inspection, normally from 8
What is casual inspection? I don't know what that is. Is that a roadblock?
In the morning to 11 in the evening. China's roads and streets are getting busier. The new drunk driving law is designed to make them a little less dangerous.
Stress. Look at that. On little. She put a little stress there.
It's designed to make them a little less dangerous, which means to some extent it guarantees the safety.
Guarantees.
Of the traffic system.
It guarantees the safety of the traffic system. I thought it's supposed to protect drivers. Alright. Alright, let's look at some scores. Fluency, she did speak very fluently, but to get a 7, well, at least a 6, not a 7. To get a 6, you need to be able to speak at length. Now, she spoke for 1 minute and 20 seconds, which in part 2 is not speaking at length. But because she spoke so fluently, I think she will probably still get a 6. For vocabulary, great vocabulary. She can get a 7 for that. Grammar, very accurate. She can get a 7 for that. Pronunciation, 5. She didn't use stress enough. There was no intonation. And she could pause more between ideas. Use some chunking and pause. So 6.775. Alright, let's have a listen to the next one.
A good law I'm going to talk about is a law.
A good law I'm going to talk about is a law. What does that mean?
It's about smoking.
Okay, so a good law I'm going to talk about is a law about smoking. I think actually it's a law on the prohibition of smoking.
In China, smoking in public places is banned. And this law has been considered as one of the most important laws in citizens' eyes, especially in those who hate secondhand smoke.
Secondhand smoke, not secondhand smokers. Yes, good.
I got to know about this law when I was very, very young because there were signs to remind people not to smoke everywhere, just everywhere. Right now in China, Shanghai and Beijing, the mega cities, are implementing a tough smoking ban.
Ah, look at this. Implementing ban. Very good.
And non-smoking posters were put on the most eye-catching places.
The most eye-catching places. Maybe the most visible places. The most visible places.
In every corner of the city. And of course, there is a smoking ban in some other cities in China, but it is not that strict.
It's not that strict.
It is less strict than in these two cities. Why is it a good law? Well, I think it is a good law mostly because we don't
I think it's a good law, mostly the intonation here, that's good.
have to suffer from the secondhand smoke anymore.
Secondhand smoke doesn't take an article, there's no the.
Because we don't have to suffer from the secondhand smoke anymore. Tobacco smoke contains more than 70,000 chemicals. I just knew it from...
Why past tense? Don't you know it anymore? So I know this from my reports. Okay, I don't know if she's a journalist. I don't know what kind of report she's talking about. All right, so drop the just and change this to the present tense. So I know it from my reports.
And more than 70 of them are known to cause...
Look at the passive there. 70 of them are known to cause lung cancer. Oh, and then she says lung cancers. No, there's no S. Did you say lung cancers?
Are known to cause lung cancers.
No, just lung cancer.
And so it is the number one risk factor for lung cancer.
Look at this here. Number one risk factor. Excellent.
This law, to some extent, not only does good to smokers.
What?
Well, this law, to some extent, not only does good to smokers.
Can't make it out.
Because they don't smoke, or they can smoke wherever they want to. And in some cases, they may not smoke that often. But also protects those non-smokers from being hurt by the secondhand smoke.
Why not say harmed? I wouldn't use hurt, harmed. It protects non-smokers from being harmed by secondhand smoke. Again, no the.
Imagine you don't smoke, but you are diagnosed with lung cancer.
Diagnosed. Disease. Excellent.
Because of the fact that smokers smoke in public places.
Places.
Randomly, so...
Randomly? No, there's no randomly. It's just people smoke in public places.
Public places randomly, so you just suffer from lung cancer and
suffer from cancer. Suffer from cancer. That's not something you really hear people say. You suffer from disease, yes, but not suffer from cancer. So you develop cancer.
How would you feel about it? Huh?
Please don't ask the examiner questions.
So that's why I think this is a really good law.
Alright, let's look at some scores. Fluency and Coherence, it's got to be a 7. Even though she spoke for too long, it's like 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Again, not realistic. Let's look at this. I'm not a big fan of changing the cues into questions, but she doesn't do that too much. She just did it once here, right?
Well, I think it is a good law.
There we can see some intonation there also, right? I think it's a good law.
And so it is the #1 risk factor for lung cancer. Well, this law, to some extent, not only does good to smokers because they don't smoke.
But look at how it's connected here. Not only blah, 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 because they don't smoke, and then she continues, but also. So very good use of linkers, right? I don't like this, imagine you don't smoke, and asking the examiner what they think.
Randomly, so you just suffer from lung cancer, and how would you feel about it? Huh?
This part here. But still very fluent. And vocabulary, again, we don't know if she can discuss all the topics, so it's very difficult to make a judgment, but I think 7 is probably a fair assessment. I mean, we had some great vocabulary here. Like, look at this, diagnosed with lung cancer. But then she also used words like hurt, when I think she should have said harmed. Let's see, to some extent. Here she said lung cancers when it should be lung cancer. But then she says #1 risk factor. That's great. So just too many inappropriacies. Like here, I just knew it. Instead of I know about it from. But I guess that's more grammar. Okay, speaking of grammar, 7. Very accurate. Some mistakes though, especially with articles, like here, the secondhand smoke. There's no the. Pronunciation, 6. So you can generally be understood. We did see some intonation. We did see stress, good chunking, but no features from band 8. So we can't give her a 7 for that. It's got to be a 6. All right, let's listen to the next sample.
Describe a good law in your country. Well, much about this topic, what I want to talk about.
Okay, he's talking too fast. I can't hear everything he's saying.
It's a ban of drink driving.
Whoa, ban on. He also says drink driving. Like I said before, drink is okay. In American English, it would be drunk, but that's fine. But should be ban on.
It's a ban of drink driving. I think this law has been carried out many years ago.
I think this law has been put into effect. Laws are not carried out.
In fact, it was never being fully executed.
There's no ing there. It was never fully executed. I don't know what he means by this. I mean, if a law is on the books, then it's on the books. Does it mean it was not enforced? Maybe enforced.
Last year I heard from the TV.
I heard on TV.
That the police department is going to enforce this law, and anyone who was drinking.
Anyone. Why is it was drink? Why is this in the past tense?
Driving will be seriously punished. I think the government decided to do this because in the past few years, too many accidents really happened.
There's no word. Too many accidents happened.
And I think there are several reasons for this. First of all, it protects people's lives, both drivers and the passengers' lives.
I think this word is passengers, but I'm not sure. Passengers, pedestrians?
People's lives, both drivers and the passengers' lives.
I don't know. Could be either.
People drunk.
If people are drunk,
they respond slowly and couldn't see something clearly. Even.
Why is this in the past tense? Okay, so if people are drunk, they can't if people are drunk, they respond slowly and can't see clearly. There's no something. Can't see clearly. And they might even see double. I would lose the in this condition because you already explained that people are drunk. That's the condition.
It was so dangerous to drive.
Why past tense again? Is it not dangerous anymore?
Barely, even double. In this condition, it was so dangerous to drive.
Now here you could talk about the condition. Why not say it's so dangerous to drive under these conditions?
To drive.
Or in this state, maybe.
Secondly, it reduces people's property loss. You know, the car is very expensive.
Cars are very expensive.
It will be a shame that such a car is destroyed by accident.
I think it means in an accident. It would be a shame if your car is destroyed in an accident because of drink driving.
Because of drink driving. Thirdly, it's a really a good excuse to reduce drinking by saying I don't want to be a criminal.
Yeah, other people talked about this before, right? So people don't like to, or people have an excuse at some social events not to get drunk and then drive by saying I don't want to break the law. Okay.
You know, too many people persuade each other to drink in some formal dinner, and they could
at some formal dinner
refuse that.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's the law is working, and
the law is working. Now the law is being enforced.
You can refuse drinking easily.
They can easily refuse to drink.
I do believe that Chinese people will obey this law, and the accidents wouldn't happen
anymore, I guess. I don't know, that's where it ends. Okay, let's look at some scores. Fluency and coherence, I really don't know. I would have to hear more about this, or hear more from this person in part 1 and 2, because if we listen to the beginning, he starts super fast.
Describe a good law in your country. Well, much about this topic. What I want to talk about is...
I mean, he spoke like that. And then when we got here, listen to the pace here.
It's a really a good excuse to reduce drinking.
I mean, wow, what a change. And then, I mean, at the end, we have this here.
Wouldn't happen
I don't know. I would have to hear more. I can make up my mind. Lexical Resource, yeah, 6. I mean, he can talk about drink driving. He uses inappropriate words, but we can understand his meaning. Grammar, same thing. He makes a lot of mistakes, but it doesn't really cause comprehension problems. Pronunciation, 5. We're able to understand most of what he's saying, but not enough use of the features of band 6. Not enough chunking, intonation, rhythm, stress, all those things. That limits him to a 5. Okay, here we go with the next sample.
Well, although I don't know much about law, I love to talk about an animal law against over-reproduction of pets.
I'm not even sure what this means. An animal law. The animals made the law? I love to talk about a law prohibiting the over-reproduction of pets. I'm not sure what that is. I don't know what is going on in China. Regulating the reproduction of pets? Maybe regulating?
Pets, like dogs and cats. I came across some news introducing the related regulation about...
Came across, great phrase. This word is relative. Relative. Not relative, relative.
The related regulation about prohibiting businesses like pet stores, shelters, and kennels
Kennels, good word.
from breeding pets on a massive scale.
I didn't know that kennels bred pets. Okay, news to me. Breeding is a good word.
As we all know, the pet industry is a multi-million-dollar industry.
I think it's more than that.
People are willing to pay an absurd amount of money to obtain a pet they adore.
Absurd amount of money, very good phrase.
Because people are looking for a lifetime companion.
But dogs die earlier than people do, so how are dogs a lifetime companion?
I've heard some of my friends who are willing to pay.
I don't know why is there a who here? Why is there a herd? I don't know. Why not just say, some of my friends are willing to pay
up to 20,000 RMB for pure breed dog.
Okay, so some of my friends are willing to pay up to 20,000 RMB for pure bred. This is bred, not breed, and this is dogs.
Dog. It's actually rather common for dog owners to pay a couple of thousands for
a couple of thousand. There's no S. A couple of thousand.
Owners to pay a couple of thousands for an urban dog like a corgi or...
What on earth is an urban dog? I don't know what that is. Corgi, French bulldog, that's fine. Urban dog, I don't know.
French bulldog. However, the thing is...
the problem is, the issue is...
when businesses breed dogs and cats on a large scale with...
On a large scale.
Without government regulation, many of the animals end up being abandoned or euthanized.
Great words. Abandoned, euthanized. Okay.
The businesses don't know how to take care of the animals, or they don't even care about the animals, because that would cause genetic disorders.
What? The businesses don't know how to take care of the animals, and that causes genetic disorders. If you don't take care of your animal, that causes genetic disorders? That doesn't make sense. Genetic disorders are caused by the DNA, not about how the animals are treated.
Genetic disorders, deformity, and a lot more problems.
Deformity and a lot more. Many other problems.
Obviously, this has to stop. And that's why many parts of Europe and North America have adopted related laws to protect the animals. But those lovely animals in China aren't as lucky. A license for a certified breeder isn't just a piece of paper. It helps to regulate the pet industry.
Okay, here we have regulate, we have pet industry, that's great. I'm not sure what the difference between the pet industry and the pet market is. Isn't that the same thing?
Pet market. Guaranteeing basic animal rights. At the same time, it also helps the lawful businesses to survive and thrive.
It helps the law for businesses. What's the it? What does the it refer to? The license? So the licenses help the law for businesses to survive. I don't know what she means by that.
Helps the lawful businesses to survive and thrive. I've heard reports about positive outcomes thanks to such a law.
Reports about positive outcomes, great vocabulary.
Since there's a noticeable decline in the
look at this here, noticeable decline, very good too.
Number of strayed animals.
It's not straight, it's stray, the number of stray animals.
Decline in the number of strayed animals in countries where such law is adopted.
Where such laws are adopted.
So I sincerely hope that in the...
What is this word? Seriously?
Adopted. So I sincerely hope that in the near future, animal rights could be a thing in the China market.
Animal rights could be a thing. I do like that phrase too. I thought you was talking about a law that already existed in China. I guess not. All right, let's look at some scores. All right, Fluency and Coherence. She spoke, well, not spoke, she read, because I mean she is reading. She read very fluently. I mean, look at this here. Although I don't know much about the law, I'd like to talk about animal rights and all that. Like, give us some examples. As we all know, that's a good phrase. A couple of times I didn't quite follow what she was saying. Like, where is it now? Oh, like the genetic disorders. I didn't quite follow why taking care of animals would have any effect on genetic disorders. That I didn't quite understand. And also, what was the other thing? Oh, this here. It helps to regulate the pet industry and the pet market. That I didn't understand. I don't know how the license does that. It helps the law for businesses. This I didn't quite follow. But vocabulary, it's got to be an 8. Because there were some great phrases. I mean, look at this. Adopted. The laws are adopted. It's great. Near future. Positive outcome. Noticeable decline. Stray animals. Animal rights. Survive and thrive. Regulate the pet industry. Excellent. Same for grammar. It's got to be an 8. I mean, most of the sentences were error-free. And she used a wide range of structures. So 8 for grammar. Pronunciation, 6. Okay, let's have a listen to the next sample.
Well, first of all, can I say that I find this topic super difficult? Not in my wildest dreams did I ever think that I wouldn't get a topic like this on the IELTS speaking test. I thought it was just going to be a casual conversation with you. I guess I'll have to take this test again soon.
What a terrible strategy. Why do this? Why waste your time complaining about the topic? No, please don't do this. Even if you do find the topic difficult, don't waste so much time complaining about it. Just start talking.
I don't really know much about laws in China. I guess the only thing I can talk a little bit about is, in China, men need to be 22 years old or older to get married, and for women, the age limit is 20. I first heard about this law in middle school. I remember when I was 13 years old, we had a subject called politics, and one day we learned about this law.
Okay. You can probably notice the pronunciation really good. And grammar really accurate.
Subject called politics, and one day we learned about this law. I still remember that right after our teacher told us about this age limit thing, I was quite shocked, because at that time my neighbors were a young couple who were only 18 years old.
Okay, keeping it personal.
I had talked with them before, and they told me that they had just graduated from high school.
And here he actually uses the past perfect tense correctly. They had just graduated, because that was before he talked to them.
And they were married. So right after hearing about this age limit thing, I was very surprised, because I
notice the pauses. He pauses when he talks.
Didn't understand how it could work between the couple. Right after I got back home, I asked my parents about it, and they told me that they didn't have, the couple living next door didn't have a marriage certificate issued by the government.
Marriage certificate, good phrase. Issued for certificate, good verb.
They had a wedding ceremony, and they thought they were married, but actually it was not legal.
Okay, so it was a civil ceremony.
Why I think it's a good law? Well, it's a good law because it really prevents people from getting hitched too early.
Okay, so here we have some idiomatic language. Hitched. Instead of saying getting married, he says hitched.
This is really good because if teenagers are too immature to go into marriage and
yeah, okay.
The family, they have to wait until they're 20 or 22, so they are a little bit more mature.
I don't know if I agree with this, but hey, the language is good. Now, scores. It's going to be difficult. Now, I did criticize his introduction, but man, he spoke fluently. Very, very little hesitation or self-correction. Yeah, I don't recommend this. Don't do this. But I mean, even here, he did use some great vocabulary. Like, look at this, wildest dreams. Did I ever think? But this is not a good example for other people to follow, I don't think. But look at this. I guess the only thing I can talk about is I first heard about this law. I remember. It's very easy to understand what he's saying. Everything is very clear. I still remember. I was quite shocked. So right after, I was very surprised. Right after again. Actually, it was not. Why I think it's a good law. Well. Okay. So, biggest thing is the fluency. Discourse markers, not as good as the fluency. So, 8. Vocabulary, also 8. I mean, such a wide range of vocabulary. Only a couple of times, I can't even remember where I saw the example. Let's see. Were there any mistakes here at all? The only thing I would say is here about this age limit thing. Thing is such a general word. I don't know if I would recommend anybody using that. I don't think so. Okay, so anyway, very, very accurate. The same thing for grammar. It's got to be an 8. I don't think the language is quite complex enough to give it a 9. So occasional inappropriacies, it's not really the best descriptor to fit this grammar we just saw here. I would just say maybe more complex structures. But as far as accuracy go, it is pretty accurate. I mean, look at this, issued by the government. They only had, maybe had could be improved by using a different verb. But really good. The same for pronunciation. It's got to be an 8. I mean, his Chinese accent only has a minimal effect on intelligibility. He's very easy to understand. He uses the pronunciation features very, very flexibly. Really a good response. All right, let's have a listen to the next sample.
Describe a good law in your country. You should say what it is, how you knew it,
why new,
who its effects, why do you think it is good.
I'll explain why do you think it's good.
I'm going to talk about the customer protection law in my country.
I think it's consumer, not customer. Usually those laws are called consumer protection laws. And also the word is law, not lore. Law.
I have known this law.
Why I have? I have known. Oh, she did say I have known. Why did it sound like no then?
I'm going to talk about the customer protection law in my country. I have known this law.
Oh, it is no. Yeah, it's I've known, not no.
Since my primary school, and
since I was in primary school.
Our teacher has told us that we can always use this law to defend our rights in shopping.
Our rights in shopping? No, our consumer rights. Consumer rights.
It feels awful, but
it's not feels. It feels awful.
I have to say that fake products are still common throughout China.
It feels awful. I don't know what she means. Does she mean I'm embarrassed to say that fake products are still common in China? Maybe I'm embarrassed to say that it feels awful.
Are still common throughout China. If you want to buy an iPad online.
Oh, hang on a second. She said iPad, not iPads. But anyway, It should be an, not a, if you want to buy an iPad.
Buy an iPad online, you will find that almost all the sellers say that
It's sellers, not sailors. Sellers.
they are selling the real product.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the truth is, some iPads do come from Apple's company.
Now she's lost me. Why is she talking about apps now? Is it apps?
Well, the truth is, some iPads do come.
Some iPads. Oh, iPads. She's saying iPads.
They are selling the real product. Well, the truth is, some iPads.
iPads. iPads. iPads. Doesn't sound like iPads, but it's iPads.
Sellers say that they are selling the real product. Well, the truth is, some iPads.
She's saying iPads. Okay, I got it.
Do come from Apple's company.
Do come from Apple, not Apple's company. Do come from Apple.
But they are just not allowed by Apple in selling.
What does this mean? What is she saying here? The truth is some iPads come from Apple. What? No, all iPads come from Apple. But they are not allowed by Apple. They're not allowed by Apple to be sold? I don't understand this system. What is she saying here? But grammatically it should be they're not allowed by Apple to be sold.
But they are just not allowed by Apple in selling. So if you buy an iPad from those stores, it's just like buying a model with all the same parts as a real one, but no official service at all.
I don't know what this means. Is this what happens in China? Everything is a knockoff?
Anyway, fake products are just hard to tell from the real one.
That is a great phrase. Fake products are hard to tell from the real ones. Good grammar.
From the real ones, and even when you realize that you get a fake one,
that you have gotten a fake one,
the store may not agree to return the money.
Return your money?
In such conditions, it's important to use the customer protection law as a weapon. We can call the official hotline
hotline
12315 for help. People there will help to check the product, like searching its artifact codes.
Okay, the word is codes, not codes. What on earth are RT fake codes?
Like searching its artifact codes.
That's what I hear, RT fake codes. I don't know what that means. Fake codes.
If the case is confirmed, they will help us argue with the store and get the money back.
Our money back.
So basically, that's why I think this law is good.
Interesting. It's difficult for me to imagine this situation where everything is fake and you have fake RT codes. I don't quite understand what country this is. Okay, for Fluency and Coherence, she didn't speak, she read, but it was at length. I mean, she wasn't speaking, she was reading. Let's look at the discourse markers. Those are pretty good. Let's see here. So here, I have to say, that's pretty good. Well, the truth is, so, anyway, and even, and such conditions. Yeah, pretty good. In the case, if the, no, that's not it. So basically, yeah, that's a pretty good mix, right? For the vocabulary, there were some inappropriacies. Like, for example, here, she talks about the customer protection law. It should be consumer. Let's see. Defend our rights. That's good. But like here, do come from Apple's company. Apple's company, that's not right. And this like buying a model, I don't quite know what that means. Fake products, return your money, not the money. As a weapon, that's not bad. Hotline is good. I don't know what this is. So that's why I'm saying there are some inappropriacies. Same with grammar. I mean, like here, I have know instead of I have known. Since my primary school, since I was in primary school. And like here, some iPads has do come from. They are just not allowed by Apple in selling. Okay, so lots of grammatical errors, but we can understand what she's saying. So that's a 6. And pronunciation also 6. I mean, she does mispronounce quite a few words, but you can still make out what she's trying to say. Alright, let's have a listen to the next sample.
The law I'd like to talk about is drinking driver law.
It's not drinking driver, it's drunk driver. But again, the right word would be say the law against drinking under the not drinking, what am I saying? The law against driving under the influence. Driving under the influence.
In my country, this law is quite strict. You cannot drive after drinking alcohol, even a drop.
Even a drop. Why on earth did I put a question mark there? Okay, she's speaking quite slowly.
Alcohol, even a drop.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you
are caught by the police. Passive, we need a be verb.
Police, after drinking, you will get fined. Or
you will get fined, or you will get a fine, depending if you using it as a verb or a noun. So you will get a fine, or you will get fined.
Or you will be taken away the driver's license.
No, your driver's license will be taken away. Not you will be taken away. Your driver's license will be taken away.
Or possibly even go to the prison.
There's no the, or you might even possibly go to prison.
This law gives a deterrent effect.
This law is a deterrent. There's no the. So this law is a deterrent for those who intend to what?
On those who intended to against the law.
No, it's not against the law, it's break the law. So it deters those who intend to break the law.
Making them consider the consequences of those behaviors.
Of their behavior, singular, of their behavior.
Regarding of how I know it,
there's no of. Regarding how I know it,
that I have seen saw the law on TV. Or
how do you see law on TV? Don't know about that.
Or from the social media.
Social media, there's no the again, or from social media.
Saw the law on TV or from the social media.
Mm-hmm.
Undoubtedly. This law benefits to the whole society.
There's no to. This is a verb. We don't need a preposition for verbs. What am I saying? That's not really true. But for this verb, there's no preposition. So it benefits the whole society, not to. If it's a noun, we can say to. It's a benefit to the whole society. But here, benefits a verb, no to.
It will be much safer. It
will be much safer. The number of the traffic accidents. Wait a moment, what?
Benefits to the whole society.
Mm-hmm.
It will be much safer. The number of the traffic accidents.
I don't know what she means by the safer. What? It will reduce the number of traffic accidents? Reduce, I think.
has decreased since the law came to the fact.
Since the law came into effect. Came into effect. Since the law came into effect. Here it's future tense, will, and then past tense. What is happening here? The number of traffic accidents have decreased since the law came into effect. I think that's what she wants to say.
Since the law came to the fact. So that's basically why I think that it is a good law.
Okay. This one's pretty easy. For fluency, she spoke for about, 80 seconds, which is not at length. She spoke quite slowly. You need to not do either of these to get a 6, so it's got to be a 5. Vocabulary, limited flexibility. Let's look at this. Drinking driver law, that's not right. Even a drop, that's pretty good. You will get fine. It's not fine, it's fined. Deterrent is good, but then she uses the verb gives. It's not gives a deterrent, and it's also not deterrent effect. So deterrent is good, but she kind of messes it up with the gives and the effect. It should just be this law is a deterrent to those, not on those. So wrong preposition. Against the law. It's not against the law. It's supposed to break the law. Regarding of. It's just regarding how. Seeing the law on TV. I don't know what that means. So nothing spectacular there. Grammar. She does use some complex structures, but it causes some comprehension problems. Like here, it will be much safer. She starts in the future tense. Well, I already talked about this. I mean, this is hard to understand. Let's see. This here, where is it now? Will be taken away the driver's license. See, it's hard to understand. If you caught by the police, if you are caught by the police. So grammar, 5. Pronunciation, 5. Okay, let's have a listen to the next and last sample.
Describe a good law in your country. Well, I think the good law in my country is the marriage law. The marriage law rules.
Okay, here she says the, but here she didn't say the. It should be the marriage law. The marriage law doesn't rule. The marriage law states. Courts rule. Laws state things.
The property.
The property.
Earned.
Property earned. People don't earn property. The property acquired. The verb here should be acquired.
Earned by both men and women during the marriage is the joint property.
Is the joint property. Here it is the, because we're talking about specific property.
Of both husband and wife. I understand this law because my sister's mother wanted to.
My sister's mother? Well, isn't your sister's mother your mother as well? Unless you have different mothers.
Because my sister's mother wanted to advise 10 years ago.
She didn't want to advise. She wanted advice.
At that time, in order to help my sister's mother to fight for greater benefit, I also learned.
I guess there should be no period here. This is one sentence. What is she saying here? It's kind of hard to make out. In order to help her fight for greater benefit, I think she means more benefits. She wants to get more money or more property, right? So in order to help her fight for more benefits, I also learned. Why is there an also? I learned a lot about what? What did you learn about?
Faith. I also learned a lot of knowledge related to this law.
I learned a lot of knowledge related to this law. I don't know what that means. I think she's trying to say, in order to help her, I read up on this law. But then she has from lawyers. What does that mean? Oh, she learned from lawyers. Oh, maybe she talked to lawyers. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So I consulted with some lawyers to learn more about the law. If it's from lawyers, then maybe she consulted with the lawyers.
Related to this law from lawyers. I think the reason for this law, the reason why I think this law is very good because
If
the man's career makes a lot of money.
Careers don't make money. Only people make money. So if a man earns a lot of money, why is it only the man? Why not the woman? But anyway, so if the man earns a lot of money,
career makes a lot of money and very achieved.
Very achieved. What does that mean? I mean, I really don't understand. He's very successful, maybe? Very successful?
He will tend to change his wife in China.
What is going on in China? So so this should be men then, I think, not just a specific man. So if men becomes very successful, they tend to get a trophy wife. There is actually a term for this. It's called trophy wife. It's not change your wife. Men get trophy wives.
But the wife has spent a lot of...
Oh, you know what? This should be spent. There we go.
His wife in China. But the wife has spent a lot of time and energy in the family. So I think that if you must divorce, your wife should receive responsible compensation.
The compensation is good. I don't understand the responsible compensation. Does she mean appropriate compensation? Your wife should receive appropriate compensation?
This will...
Why does she say yes there? It's weird.
Compensation, yes. This will help the humorous of the city.
I don't know what that means. The humorous of the city. Residents? Which city? What city? And what if they live in the countryside? Does that mean they don't get anything?
The humorous of the city, and I think it will have it also ban some husband and...
It bans some husbands. I don't know what she's saying. What does that mean? Does that mean husbands become illegal?
If it also bans some husband and increase their divorce courses. So
what is a divorce course? Is this a course you take at university to learn how to get a divorce?
I think this is a good law.
Well, I think it's really hard to understand what you're saying. I don't know what she's saying. I mean, from here to the end, it's unclear to me what she's saying. None of this makes sense. For the score for coherence especially, there were a couple of breakdowns in coherence. I couldn't understand what she was saying sometimes. She spoke quite slowly. If you look at vocabulary, 5, Oh, hang on. There's also 5. Vocabulary 5, because a lot of vocabulary is inappropriate. Like sister's mother, I don't know what that is. Greater benefits should be more benefits. Joint property. The marriage law rules, it's not right. The property earned, that's not right. Grammar, also 5, because of the comprehension problems. All the mistakes make it difficult to hear what she's saying, or to understand what she's saying, rather. Pronunciation, 5. She does use intonation, but it's usually a rising intonation. Everything is in a rising intonation. So, not good enough to get a 6.